Chapter 650, Martial Saint Qingmi. Ah, ah, miserable cries rang out continuously in the Skyfire mountain range. In this place, the lives of the super-experts were extremely fragile. Even a martial saint would be instantly killed if he was not careful. For a moment, countless martial emperors and martial saints could not stand such a scene and quickly escaped. This place was no longer about fighting for treasures, but about killing, true killing. A 9th-level martial emperor was simply courting death. More than 20 martial saints had died in just a moment. The speed of their deaths made countless martial emperors and martial saints in the distance tremble. Boom! The earth-shattering sounds of attacks colliding caused the entire mountain range to tremble. Heaven and earth trembled in the face of such an attack and destruction. Humph, a bunch of trash. At this moment, a cold voice sounded in the air. Suddenly, the space trembled. All the experts stopped at this moment. Even the few 5th sky martial saints from before looked into the distance in surprise. In the void, an old man in his 50s was floating in the air. His cold eyes swept across all the experts. Instantly, all the experts trembled. Martial Saint Qingmi. Martial Saint Qingmi, ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints. It's Martial Saint Qingmi. Martial Saint Qingmi is really here. I didn't expect this old fellow to really come. This is going to be a good show. For a moment, all the experts exclaimed and discussed, looking extremely fearful. Martial Saint Qingmi, who was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints, was at the peak of the 5th sky of the martial saint realm. It was rumored that martial Saint Fengyun was defeated by him in 3 moves. Not to mention martial Saint Qingmi, who was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints, just the cultivation base of the 5th sky of the martial saint realm was enough to make all the experts present feel afraid. Even the other 4 5th sky of the martial saint realm experts looked at martial Saint Qingmi with fear. Qingmi, long time no see. You're still so angry. Luo Feng, a 5th sky martial saint, greeted martial Saint Qingmi with a faint smile on his face. In this place, even if they became opponents later, they wouldn't make a move immediately. Luo Feng, Qingjian, Lan He, Zhou Yunshao. Martial Saint Qingmi glanced at the 4 experts in the sky and said indifferently. Although his tone was calm, there was a look of disdain. He was also a 5th sky martial saint, but his cultivation had already reached the peak of the 5th sky. Moreover, he was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints. His strength was shocking. Even if he met a 6th sky martial saint, he would not be afraid. Now, he naturally didn't put Luo Feng and the others in his eyes. The gap between them was like heaven and earth, they weren't even on the same level. As for the other ordinary martial saints at the 4th sky of the martial saint realm and below the 3rd sky of the martial saint realm, he did not even bother to look at them. In his eyes, the other martial saints were as easy to deal with as martial emperors. Brother Qingmi still remembers me. Lan He laughed loudly. Although martial Saint Qingmi had looked down on him, he wasn't the slightest bit dissatisfied. Experts wouldn't get angry easily. When they really fought, they would kill each other. Did you guys discuss who this empty spirit pearl belongs to, or do you want us to fight it out and the winner takes all? Martial Saint Qingmi looked at Lan He and said indifferently. A shocking aura burst out. Instantly, the entire world trembled. Countless martial saints and martial emperors left in a hurry. Their eyes were filled with shock as if they had seen a ghost. At this moment, a shocking grid appeared. The shocking grid pressed down on countless martial saints and martial emperors. The grid carried a destructive pressure. Pft. In an instant, countless martial emperor powerhouses died, and martial saint powerhouses were also injured. Countless martial emperors and martial saints were furious but did not dare to speak. In front of the strong were respected. They could only be crushed like ants. What is Sir Qingmi planning? Qjng Jian looked at Marshal Saint Qingmi. The other experts in the third or fourth heaven also looked at her. There were only about 30 experts left in this place. Those who could stay were experts above the third heaven. Otherwise, they would have been crushed to death by Marshal Saint Qingmi. This void spirit pearl is mine. Marshal Saint Qingmi didn't hesitate at all. His expression was calm as if the empty spirit pearl belonged to him. He didn't care about the gazes of the other martial saints. This was the tyranny of the 10 great martial saints. They didn't give anyone the slightest consideration or resistance. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Although all the experts were unhappy, they couldn't directly fight Marshal Saint Qingmi before the empty spirit pearl appeared. If Marshal Saint Qingmi targeted one of them, none of them would be able to restrain her. However, at this moment, a carefree voice appeared. His voice was calm, as if he was talking about something insignificant. All the experts looked towards the source of the voice. They were all curious. Who would dare to speak to Marshal Saint Qingmi like this? Wasn't this courting death? At the same time, Li Lingtian, who was hiding among the martial emperors, was surprised. He thought of Long Da's words. A mysterious young man whose cultivation could not be seen emitted a terrifying and threatening aura. He came to the Heavenly Fire Mountain range after Marshal Saint Qingmi arrived. When he arrived, he saw that all the martial emperors and experts had left. It was not appropriate for him to go and check on them, so he could only follow them. He had just heard the voice and looked in the direction of the voice. He finally saw the young man. He was dressed in purple and exuded a strange aura. It was impossible to tell his cultivation level, but he gave off a sense of threat and fear. All the experts saw the purple-clad young man. The purple-clad young man had a faint smile on his face as he leisurely walked in the air, completely disregarding the sharp gazes of all the experts. Beside him, there was another person, and that was Lord Yuntian. Seeing that Lord Yuntian was actually not far away from this young man, like a follower, all the experts were shocked. Could it be that you also want to fight for this empty spirit pearl? Marshal Saint Qingmi's expression changed. He actually dared to oppose him in front of everyone. Wasn't this a disgrace to him? However, when he saw how calm this young man was, he was stunned. Even he couldn't tell the cultivation level of this young man. Immediately, he suppressed the anger in his heart and only asked indifferently. This young master only feels that it's fun. This empty spirit pearl is not bad, this young master wants it. The purple-clad young man looked at the empty spirit pearl in the light barrier like an idiot and completely ignored all the experts. He was like a second-generation rich kid treating his servants. Hush! All the experts exhaled a breath of cold air. Wasn't this going against all the experts in the world? A young man whose cultivation could not be seen, even if he cultivated since he was born, he would only be at the martial honor realm. That would also be a heaven-defying genius. How could he be so arrogant in front of so many martial emperors and martial saints? He was simply an idiot. If he wasn't an idiot, then he was a heaven-defying expert. One had to know that he had Lord Yuntian by his side. Sir Yuntian had an extraordinary status in the Moonsong Kingdom. Even the 10 great martial saints were unwilling to offend him. However, at this moment, Sir Yuntian had become the purple-clad young man's follower. They were all extremely curious about the purple-clad young man's background. Do you want it? No matter how powerful the purple-clad young man's background was, this place was still the territory of the Moonsong Kingdom. He had no right to be arrogant in front of fifth heaven martial saints. As he spoke, his aura skyrocketed, and the space shook. A heaven-defying pressure pressed down on the purple-clad young man. Instantly, an overwhelming pressure descended like the might of heaven. Li Lingtian was shocked when he saw the pressure. Even the Windcloud martial saint of the 10 great martial saints had such a pressure. He did not expect these powerhouses who had not entered the 10 great martial saints to be so freakish. It seemed that many of the true experts looked down on the title of the 10 great martial saints. They cared more about their own cultivation. A shocking pressure swept across the space and directly pressed down on the purple-clad young man 100 miles away like a storm. However, the purple-clad young man didn't care at all. Instead, he raised his head to look at the invisible pressure in the sky. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile as he shook his head. He continued to walk forward step by step as if he was strolling in the back garden. This boldness and courage made countless experts feel envious. At the same time, all the cultivators were curious about what kind of person this purple-clad young man whose cultivation base could not be seen through was and what ability he had to ignore Zhou Yunxiao's pressure. Impudent. However, Lord Yuntian, who was not far away from the purple-clad young man, shouted coldly as he looked at the sky with a cold gaze. With a wave of his hand, a banner appeared in his hand. When he waved it, the space around him trembled. Thunder rumbled in the sky. Suddenly, muffled sounds rang out continuously. After a moment, the muffled sounds disappeared and the sky became quiet again. Zhou Yunxiao and the other martial saints exclaimed again. Even a fourth heaven martial saint might not be able to withstand the shocking pressure of a fifth heaven martial saint. However, it was caught by a second heaven array master. Moreover, the expression of the purple-clad young man was what shocked them. When he saw the pressure, he did not panic at all. Instead, he completely ignored it as if he knew that Sir Yuntian would be able to withstand this pressure. This way, all the powerhouses were even more shocked and curious about the purple-clad young man's identity and background. Li Lingtian's heart skipped a beat when he saw Lord Yuntian's banner break the pressure of a fifth firmament martial saint in the air. How ran Pan? He was extremely shocked. He didn't think that this Lord Yuntian would control the How Ran Pan. The How Ran Pan's greatest power was to dissolve the pressure of experts and ignore the shocking pressure of experts. It was also a super treasure of an array master. He didn't expect the How Ran Pan to actually appear on this array master. He became more and more curious about the identity of this purple-clad young man. At the same time, he also felt a trace of fear towards this purple-clad young man. Chapter 651, Sky Screen Golden Flame. How Ran Pan was a formation path treasure with a mysterious origin. Since this treasure appeared in the hands of Lord Yuntian, and this Lord Yuntian was with the purple-clad young man, then the purple-clad young man's identity was even more mysterious. Once again, Li Lingtian listed the purple-clad young man as an important opponent. He was also the biggest threat to the treasure contest. Yes, Lord Yuntian, what angle are you standing at? Should I stand at the angle of the Moonsong Kingdom's holy array master or behind him? Zhou Yunxiao was shocked and regretful at the same time. Now, he could no longer get off the stage. The shocking pressure he exerted was actually easily resolved by a second sky martial saint. It did not affect the purple-clad young man at all. Such an outcome naturally made him lose face. However, before he attacked, he asked first, which stunned all the experts. At the same time, he also admired Zhou Yunxiao. This was indeed a trump card. Because he gave himself a way out, he did not kill him because of Lord Yuntian. Even if others did not believe this reason, they would not say anything. As long as you give up on this empty spirit pearl, we will still be friends in the future. Otherwise, if you make a move, it will be awkward for us to meet in the future. Lord Yuntian did not answer Zhou Yunxiao's question, but talked about the empty spirit pearl. This sentence stunned all the experts. Like master, like slave. The purple-clad young man was arrogant. Now, even Lord Yuntian was so arrogant. Giving up the empty spirit pearl? What a joke. Marshal Saint Qingmi's expression slowly changed. The two of them had been singing for so long, yet they had ignored him. how could he not be angry? Moreover, he had said that he wanted the empty spirit pearl, but now, a young man had asked for it so directly. This was obviously going against him and fighting him for the empty spirit pearl. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at the empty spirit pearl below and saw that the empty spirit pearl had already started to tremble. It was about to break free from the restrictions of the light barrier at any moment. His body flashed, and his shocking power skyrocketed. At this moment, heaven and earth shook non-stop. The fifth sky of the martial saint realm, ranked fifth among the 10 great martial saints, had completely displayed his shocking strength at this moment. 3,000 waters by the Qingming River, all living beings in the Milky Way will be destroyed. The will of the Tao of Water. Martial Saint Qingmi's expression was serious. He had no time to waste now. After killing the 2 of them, he could fight for the empty spirit pearl. For the sake of this empty pearl, he couldn't care less about anything else. He had to get rid of Sir Yuntian because Sir Yuntian was a holy array master and also the person who activated the empty pearl this time. If he didn't get rid of him, something would definitely happen. In order to prevent any mishaps, he even used the most powerful water will. One could imagine the killing intent in martial Saint Qingmi's heart. Similarly, Zhou Yunxiao, Luo Feng, and the others circulated their cultivation and their true essence to the extreme, ready to attack at any time. Between heaven and earth, the shocking will of the great path of water carried supreme destruction. Li Lingtian was a martial emperor powerhouse. It was already heaven-defying enough for him to control the 5 elements Tao intent. Even a martial saint powerhouse would be terrified by his Tao intent. However, now that martial saint had mastered the will of the great path, only he could understand how heaven-defying it was. If the 2 of them really fought, he would definitely not be a match for martial Saint Qingmi. He finally understood how heaven-defying the will was. It was even more heaven-defying for a martial saint to control the will. No wonder martial Saint Qingmi could become the 5th among the 10 martial saints when she was at the peak of the 5th heaven of the martial saint realm. It turned out to be the will of water. Seeing martial Saint Qingmi use a terrifying top-notch heaven-grade divine power in the will of the Tao of Water, Lord Yuntian's expression changed drastically. The purple-clad young man was no longer as carefree as before. His expression also kept changing. The 5th sky of the martial saint realm was not something they could deal with. However, the purple-clad young man did not panic at all. On the contrary, his eyes were fierce. He flicked his finger and a soft sound appeared in the sky. Swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh. 4 figures appeared in the air. After they appeared, they came directly in front of Zhou Yunxiao and the others, forming a restraining force. Although the purple-clad young man and Lord Yuntian had solemn expressions, they didn't have the intention to retreat or panic. In the sky, the top-notch heaven-grade divine power cast by the will of the great path of water poured down like a Milky Way. In front of this Milky Way, the world trembled as if the Milky Way had burst its banks. The entire space was filled with the aura of destruction. The silver river surged towards the purple-clad young man and Lord Yuntian. In the world-destroying silver river, all the experts were like ants in the endless monstrous waves. This is the true will of water. In terms of the will of the Tao of Water, I'm miles away from him. Li Lingtian's figure retreated rapidly with a horrified expression on his face. To be able to use the Tao intent of water to reach this level of a top-notch heaven-grade divine power was simply a miracle. He did not know what area he would use to block or attack this move. Just as the destructive silver river was about to land on Lord Yuntian and the purple-clad young man, a loud voice sounded in the sky. Boom! The voice was like thunder, striking the minds of the experts. All of them were shocked and spat out a mouthful of blood. It was a sound wave attack. After the thunderous sound wave, a woman in black strangely floated in front of the silver river in the sky. She looked at the terrifying silver river and flicked her finger. A tiny flame shot toward the Milky Way. The tiny flame carried the power to burn the sky and hit the Milky Way. Looking at the flames that were so minute that they were out of proportion, all the experts felt uncomfortable. The Milky Way was powerful and terrifying, but the flames were so small. The collision of the two caused a heaven-defying change. The moment the flames appeared, Marshal Saint Qingmi's expression changed drastically. A hint of shock appeared at the corner of her mouth. Sky screen golden flame. Shan Province's Tian family. Marshal Saint Qingmi exclaimed. He cultivated the will of the Tao of water, and it was rare for him to cultivate it even among the countless martial saints. The nemesis of the will of the great path of water was the will of the great path of fire. He knew best what he needed to worry about and what he needed to pay attention to. He did not expect his nemesis to arrive. As the voice fell, the Milky Way of the will of the way of water collided with the tiny flame. Chi-chi. Chi-chi. A sizzling sound rang out in the sky. The dark-skinned woman was as arrogant as a goddess. Her eyes were cold, and her aura was no different from Tang Qingyue's. She floated gracefully in the air. The silver river in front of her quickly disappeared in front of the flames. At the same time, the flames also disappeared. Hush! All the experts were shocked at this moment and gasped at the same time. Marshal Saint Qingmi, who was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints, was easily blocked by the water will. What kind of concept was this? What was the background of this purple-clad young man? Zhou Yunxiao's pressure was neutralized by Lord Yuntian, and the water will of the 10 martial saints was easily broken by a woman. All of this was too terrifying. It had already exceeded the imagination of all the experts. Furthermore, Luo Feng and the others looked at Marshal Saint Qingmi curiously when they heard his last few words. Brother Qingmi, do you know their origins? Lan He looked at Marshal Saint Qingmi and asked softly. The situation wasn't right. The 4 fifth firmament martial saints had already restrained them. Marshal Saint Qingmi was also restrained. Now, there was no hope for the empty spirit pearl. I'm not too sure either. I only know that the woman used the sky screen golden flame. The sky screen golden flame is the natal golden flame of the divine continent sky screen martial god. Marshal Saint Qingmi's heart was still trembling. No matter how powerful a martial saint was, he was not a match for a martial god. Moreover, this martial god was known as one of the most powerful figures in the divine continent. The Tian family had always dominated the divine continent because of the existence of this expert. This black-robed woman's cultivation might not be high, but the sky screen golden flame she controlled was too terrifying. The Tian family of the divine continent. Why are people from the Tian family of the divine continent here? The few of them were extremely shocked. They were still considered important figures in the Moon Song Kingdom of the Black Continent. Not to mention the Tian family of the divine continent, even in the Black Continent, they were existences that could be easily killed. For a moment, their hearts began to tremble. The Tian family of the divine continent? Could it be Tianhao's Tian family? Li Lingtian's divine sense was powerful and he could hear Marshal Saint Qingmi and the others' conversation clearly. He had met Tianhao from the Tian family back in Qingzhou and he seemed to be someone from the divine continent. When he heard the Tian family of the divine continent, he immediately thought of the Tian family that Tianhao mentioned. The geniuses of the divine continent were the true geniuses, not those useless chickens and dogs from other places. Just Tianhao was enough to make it difficult for him to move. Fortunately, he was powerful and saved Tianhao's life in the end. Now, he met someone from the Tian family again. This world was really small. He could meet familiar people everywhere. He looked at the black-robed woman. She was graceful and elegant, like a proud and cold goddess from the 9 heavens. She was extremely beautiful. He was used to Tang Qingyue being an icy beauty, so he didn't feel any disgust towards the woman in black. It was just that everyone had different personalities. Sister, I let you attack again. The purple-clad young man looked at the black-clad woman in the sky and said happily. The purple-clad young man completely ignored the other experts. He didn't care about the black-clad woman's arrogance and coldness at all. Don't cause trouble for me. The woman in black couldn't do anything to her younger brother. Although her tone was cold, they were biological siblings. Naturally, she wouldn't let her younger brother get hurt. Alright, why are you so long-winded like your mother? I'll leave once I get the empty spirit pearl and return to the divine continent. Is that okay? The purple-clad young man said indignantly. He looked at the void spirit pearl in the distance and missed the other martial saints. As he spoke, he continued to walk forward step by step. His carefree appearance made countless experts envious. He was indeed not simple to be able to be so carefree in front of so many super martial saints. Chapter 652, Tianyi, 1. The purple-clad young man walked forward unhurriedly, his eyes fixed on the empty spirit pearl. Lord Yuntian, who was beside him, took back the Haoran pan, but there was a green compass in his hand. Seeing this compass, even those experts who didn't know anything about arrays knew that Master Yuntian wanted to use this compass to break the restriction and take the empty spirit pearl away. Seeing this situation, some third or fourth sky martial saints were anxious. Luo Feng and Martial Saint Qingmi were also anxious. However, there were 4/5 sky martial saints on the other side, and they were being held back. Martial Saint Qingmi didn't dare to attack anymore. After all, the woman in black was floating in the air like a goddess looking down on the world. Fairy is from the Tian family of the divine continent. Martial Saint Qingmi spoke. At this moment, there was no retreat. They could only find out the other party's identity. If the other party wasn't from the Tian family of the divine continent, they could fight and take the empty spirit pearl. If the other party was really someone from the Tian family of the divine continent, then they had no choice but to consider it. After all, the experts of the Tian family of the divine continent were not people they could easily provoke. I'm Tianxin from the Tian family of the divine continent. The woman in black looked at Martial Saint Qingmi and said coldly. Then, she looked at the purple-clad young man. Her delicate body stood in the air without moving. After she finished speaking, she did not say another word. Alright, I don't want this empty spirit pearl. Goddess Tianxin sends her greetings to Lord Tianmu on behalf of Qingmi. Martial Saint Qingmi looked at the purple-clad young man and then at the black-clad woman. There was an exquisite golden flame between her eyebrows. The flame was golden in color and exuded a supreme might. Seeing Jin Yen, Martial Saint Qingmi retreated without hesitation. She greeted the woman in black and flew away quickly. The speed at which he left was even faster than the speed at which he came. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon. Since Brother Qingmi doesn't want this empty spirit pearl, I don't want it either. Please send my regards to Lord Tianmu on behalf of me, Fairy Tianxin. I don't want it either. Please send my regards to Lord Tianmu on my behalf. I shall take my leave. I don't want them all. I don't want them either. In an instant, Luo Feng's group of 4 left. This change made all the martial saints and martial emperors unable to react in time. They did not expect that before the empty spirit pearl appeared, these powerful experts would leave. It was really hard to imagine. The other martial emperors and martial saints were watching from afar. They watched as Master Yuntian used the compass to break the restriction. Since even a few super martial saints had retreated, the others were no longer capable. However, they were all extremely unwilling. Although they did not want the empty pearl, they could still see how powerful it was. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Seconds passed by. Lord Yuntian kept casting spells. With the cultivation of a sacred array master, he alone was enough to open this array formation restriction. Just as the restriction was about to be broken, a discordant voice sounded. "If you don't want this empty spirit pearl, then I'll take it." A calm voice came from afar. The appearance of this voice shocked countless experts. They all looked curiously at the source of the voice. They wanted to know who was so bold and how capable they were to provoke the Tian family. Even Martial Saint Qingmi, who was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints, had given up. There were also 4 5th sky martial saints who had given up. Could the owner of this voice be stronger than Martial Saint Qingmi or the Tian family of the Divine Continent? However, when they saw this person, they were all stunned. It was also a young man dressed in white. The young man was elegant and had a mysterious and elegant temperament. However, his faint temperament contained a domineering aura that could destroy the world. He walked step by step in the air with a calm expression on his face. There was a faint smile on his lips as if everything in the world was under his control. Elegant, otherworldly, domineering, his entire person was one with heaven and earth. Countless experts looked at the white-robed young man with envy. This was a person who could make all the women in the world fall for him. He was handsome but masculine, domineering but unrestrained. However, the white-robed young man's cultivation was only at the 5th heaven of the martial emperor realm. The white-robed young man was naturally Li Lingtian. When he saw that all the powerhouses had left, he decided to take the Void Spirit Pearl with him no matter what happened. When the few super experts left, he secretly followed them for a while. When he found out that these experts had really left, he returned. The woman in black, the purple-clad young man, and a few level 5 guards looked at Li Lingtian. The purple-clad young man was jealous when he saw Li Lingtian's ethereal temperament and suave manner. He thought that he was suave, but he did not expect such a person to exist in this world. The woman in black frowned and looked at Li Lingtian in confusion. "Are you sure you want this empty spirit pearl?" The purple-clad young man stared at Li Lingtian as he spoke indifferently. His voice was calm but filled with killing intent. He was ready to kill Li Lingtian. He had to kill anyone who was better than him. That was because his name was Tian Yi. He was the only genius in the divine martial continent. Those who were more outstanding than him would be destroyed. I don't think I said anything that I wasn't sure about. If I want something, I'll get it even if it's a star in the 9 heavens. Li Lingtian walked at an unhurried pace. In the air, it was as if he was strolling on flat ground. His movement technique was extremely elegant and he was not inferior to the purple-clad young man, Tian Yi. His tone was overbearing. It seemed very slow, but he soon arrived in front of the 4 5th heaven martial saints. He looked at Tian Yi coldly. For this empty spirit pearl, he would destroy everything. "Soul Sky, come back." At this moment, Tian Xian shouted coldly. Her voice was filled with anxiety and her perfect face was frowning. Even though Li Lingtian did not reveal any murderous intent, threatening aura or heaven-defying aura, she instinctively sensed something amiss. That was why she called Tian Yi back immediately. Tian Yi looked at Tian Xian in confusion, but he still flashed and returned to Tian Xian's side. His gaze was cold as he looked at Li Lingtian. He knew his sister's personality well. Tianxin's personality was cold and she would not make a decision easily. There must have been a reason for her to call him back just now. At this moment, it was obvious that her sister was afraid of this young man. Otherwise, she would not have stopped him. She did not understand what ability this 5th-level martial emperor young man had to make her sister fear him. His sister was at the peak of the 9th-level martial emperor realm and had inherited his father's natal golden flame. She would not be afraid even if she met a super martial saint. Martial Saint Qingmi was a good example. Martial Saint Qingmi was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints. Even her sister had broken through Martial Saint Qingmi's will of the way of water. This showed her sister's strength. Even he could defeat this young 5th heaven martial emperor. Could it be that you want me to treat you? Li Lingtian looked at all the martial emperor and martial saint powerhouses with a cold gaze. His body exuded a demonic aura and his appearance became even more demonic. He was so handsome that even all the women in the world would be jealous of him. His peerless charm and demonic appearance were enough to make all the women in the world envious. Between his eyebrows, 3 exquisite lotus-shaped runes flashed, and they were blood-red and demonic. Humph! Who do you think you are? Do you want us to leave just like that? Treasures are ownerless. Those with virtue will live in them. You're only at the martial emperor realm. Do you really want this empty spirit pearl? If I don't have it, I won't leave. What can you do to me? Ignorant. Instantly, countless experts were enraged. In the beginning, there were a few super martial saint experts. Later, there was a heaven heart from the divine continent's Tian family. Now, a 5th-level martial emperor was acting arrogantly in front of them and completely ignoring them. How could they not be angry? Seeing that countless powerhouses were resisting Li Lingtian, more martial monarch realm experts flew over. The divine martial continent's mindset was that they had the advantage in numbers. All the experts thought that they could unite in this way. Li Lingtian looked at the powerhouses and did not say a word. However, the expression on his face changed. A cruel smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His eyes were cold as he looked at all the experts. Killing intent surged in his heart. How ignorant! He actually offended the experts of the world. Tian Yi smirked when he saw how Li Lingtian had angered the crowd. Don't gloat. You only know that you don't like others. I told you to cultivate properly, but you're lazy. Tian Xian looked at his brother gloating and glared at Tian Yi. His voice was cold like an ice mountain. Sister, you can't be. When Tian Yi saw his sister's expression, his lips curled into a sly smile as he looked at Tian Xian with evil intentions. Get lost. Don't be a dog that can't spit out ivory. When Tian Xian saw Tian Yi's smile, he knew that it was not a serious smile. The siblings had been together for a long time, so they naturally understood what Tian Yi meant. Hence, they quickly stopped him and glared at him. However, at the same time, he looked at the elegant young man. His demonic appearance made people's hearts tremble. However, they quickly eliminated this feeling. Because there might be a big battle later, and that young man was his opponent. If you don't seek death, you won't die. Li Lingtian's eyes were icy cold as he looked at the hundreds of powerhouses. His heart was filled with rage. Previously, when the few martial saints arrived, they all fled. Now that he was here, all the experts ignored him and did not put him in their eyes at all. This was the saying that the strong were respected. If he was a martial saint super expert, or one of the 10 great martial saints, these people would definitely not dare to come up. However, he wanted these powerhouses to understand that provoking Li Lingtian was more terrifying than provoking the 10 great martial saints. As soon as he finished speaking, he circulated the true origin in his entire body to the limit. A 5th-level martial emperor had the true origin and might of a 9th-level martial emperor. It even surpassed the might of a 9th-level martial emperor. Heaven and earth shook, and the aura of space was extremely oppressive. Chapter 653, Extermination of All Life, 1. Her long, flowing hair was blown by the strong wind, and her snow-white clothes rustled in the wind. With a flick of his divine sense, a palm-sized, exquisite, quaint zither appeared in front of him. He cast a spell and a spell appeared on the zither. Instantly, the palm-sized zither became 3 feet long. It was ancient and exuded a mysterious aura. All the powerhouses were puzzled and did not know what Li Lingtian was up to. This was because he couldn't tell what grade this zither was. It was just like an ordinary zither. At this moment, Tian Xian and Tian Yi were also looking curiously at Li Lingtian and the zither. Li Lingtian stared into the void. Her eyes were filled with longing, as if she was missing her beloved. Then, his gaze slowly shifted to the body of the zither. Looking at the body of the zither, he thought of that woman, that unparalleled woman, the heavenly demon Princess Qingwu. His right hand gently caressed the Tianma zither. When he looked at the Tianma zither, it was as if he was looking at Qingwu. This gaze made the hearts of countless experts tremble. That inexplicable heart-wrenching feeling made people feel sad and reminded them of the time they had missed. When Tian Xian saw Li Lingtian's gaze, her icy heart trembled for some reason, as if she had seen the longing in Li Lingtian's heart. In his heart, he was curious about Li Lingtian. What kind of man was he? Clang! Li Lingtian's 10 fingers danced as he played the zither continuously. Instantly, the world became extremely quiet. Only a beautiful sound of nature drifted in the air. The sound did not dissipate for a long time. On the contrary, it condensed together. Clang! 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 In the sky, the sound of nature rang out. The beautiful lightness allowed all the experts in the world to enter a beautiful world. Countless birds and beasts flew above the heavenly fire mountain range like moths to a flame. Even if the flames turned them into ashes, they would not hesitate to come to the heavenly fire mountain range. 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix was the pinnacle of the zither music. All the experts were extremely shocked and they saw this scene. They did not expect the young man to have such wonderful guqin skills. However, they were on guard and circulated their true essence as they were worried that Li Lingtian would unleash a killing move. One sound, all things, soul, drunken. Li Lingtian's hands danced on the zither strings as a look of deep longing appeared on his face. His eyes were fixed on the zither strings, ignoring all the powerhouses outside as he focused entirely on the zither strings. Two-tone heaven and earth desolate annihilation. The sound of nature continued. None of the powerhouses could resist the beautiful music, but at that moment, Li Lingtian's zither music changed direction. Instantly, the beautiful music became desolate. The entire world was like hell on earth, like an ancient battlefield, with endless slaughter and death. Clang, clang, clang. Clang, clang, clang. The killing intent woke up all the experts. Tian Yi and Tian Xian were also shocked. They were awakened from the beautiful music. However, it was already too late for all the experts to resist. Li Lingtian's 10 fingers danced in the air. With every flick of his fingers, an endless destructive zither music tore through the air. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. Countless martial emperor powerhouses died quickly. Blood flowed from their 7 orifices and their veins were cut. The zither music was formless, and there was nothing to hide or block. The closer they got to Li Lingtian, the more overbearing the music became. The music was playing among the endless martial emperors. Wherever the zither music went, it would affect 1,000 miles. All the martial emperor powerhouses within 1,000 miles died quickly. It was impossible for them to escape. True essence flowed out, and his veins were constantly destroyed. Finally, they felt despair. It was impossible for them to escape, let alone kill Li Lingtian. All the martial saints were bleeding from their 7 orifices. Their eyes were filled with shock and gradually became desperate. Only powerhouses above the 3rd heaven had the possibility of resisting. They had to circulate their cultivation techniques to resist Li Lingtian's zither music. Li Lingtian's fingers continued to move. Every time he did so, countless martial emperors would fall. The more he moved, the more martial saints would fall as well. Golden-scaled heaven and earth formation. At this moment, Yun Tian's figure flashed. He could only give up on the feng shui compass and return to Heaven Heart and his sister. He cast an array. It covered the three of them and looked at Li Lingtian in horror. At present, Li Lingtian's hair was drifting in the wind and the blood-red lotus rune on his glabella looked even more demonic. A third or fourth heaven martial saint could withstand Li Lingtian's zither music, while a fifth heaven powerhouse would not have much of an effect on Li Lingtian's zither music. All they did was to circulate their cultivation technique and not be careless. You're courting death. A fourth firmament martial saint powerhouse could not afford to be careless when he saw countless martial supreme and martial saints dying. If Li Lingtian continued like this, they would not be able to remain unscathed. The only thing he could do was to kill Li Lingtian. Once he was killed, the zither music would stop. As soon as he finished speaking, a shocking light appeared. The light carried a destructive aura and it was hurled toward Li Lingtian. His speed ignored the distance between them and he arrived before Li Lingtian in the blink of an eye. 3 tones life extermination war. Li Lingtian's face turned pale and a trace of blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. It was already his limit to kill hundreds of martial emperor powerhouses and dozens of martial saints with his fifth heaven martial emperor realm cultivation. He had consumed too much of his true essence and divine consciousness. It was easy for second sound to kill experts below the second sky of the martial saint realm. However, he did not dare to be careless when dealing with a third sky martial saint. Moreover, he was already in a difficult situation. There were still dozens of third or fourth sky martial saints, 4 fifth sky martial saints, Tian Yi, and Tian Xian. He didn't dare to be careless anymore. He could only kill these experts mercilessly. This time, he could only go all out. Even if his cultivation level fell, even if it meant destruction, he had to kill all the martial artists here first. With a wave of his hand, the world was filled with the aura of destruction and extermination. It was even more terrifying than the third heaven of the 9 heavens of ice and fire. A zither note struck the light attack. The sound wave and the light collided regardless of the distance between them. Boom! The light disappeared, and the sound wave fell on the third sky of the martial saint realm without leaving a trace. Ah! Arg! A miserable cry sounded as a third heaven martial saint died. Ah! Another scream resounded through the world. This was the death of a fourth sky martial saint. As Li Lingtian's fingers moved, the third firmament martial saint powerhouses began to fall. However, more blood trickled down Li Lingtian's lips and the expression on his face grew. His snow-white clothes were covered in blood, and he looked extremely miserable. However, his entire body was like a sharp sword standing proudly in the air, and an unyielding aura was revealed from his body. Every time he waved his finger, the sound waves and the extermination energy in the space would shake once. Similarly, at this time, an expert would die. No one dared to attack Li Lingtian without knowing who he was going to kill. After losing the initiative, he could only defend. However, the sound wave attack completely ignored defense. Whoosh! Whoosh! Finally, the sound of the zither fell. The 7 fourth sky martial saints who had escaped had all died. The 4 fifth firmament martial saints had blood trickling down the corners of their mouths as they stared at Li Lingtian in horror. At the same time, their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Li Lingtian looked at the fallen powerhouses in the heavenly fire mountain range, then glanced at the 4 fifth firmament martial saints, as well as Tian Xm and Tian Yi in the distance. He burst into laughter as blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. All the vital essence in his body disappeared, and the Tianma zither returned to his body. He floated in the air. He stared at the void and then looked at the empty spirit pearl below. You've been arrogant enough. You can go to hell now. The 4 fifth firmament martial saint powerhouses wiped the blood from the corners of their mouths as they stared at Li Lingtian coldly. At this moment, Li Lingtian had lost his vital essence and the heavenly demon zither. To them, Li Lingtian was a weakling who could not retaliate and was at their mercy. I hope you don't let me see your desperate looks. Li Lingtian retracted his gaze and glared at the 4/5 firmament martial saint powerhouses. His gaze was like a furnace and the 4 powerhouses shuddered for some reason when Li Lingtian's gaze swept across them. Even so, the trembling made the 4 martial saint powerhouses even more furious. A dignified martial saint powerhouse was actually injured in front of a martial emperor powerhouse. Furthermore, he was frightened by a gaze. Wasn't this a joke? At the same time, killing intent surged in Tian Yi's heart. He was the most outstanding expert in the world, but there was actually someone more outstanding and powerful than him. This was something he could not allow. Alright, I'll let you die first. One of the super martial saint powerhouses was enraged when he saw Li Lingtian's arrogance at this point. He channeled his true essence and took a step forward before he threw a punch at Li Lingtian. To them, this punch of his was enough to kill a martial monarch realm expert without true origin. Boom! As the punch landed, the space shook and a figure was thrown out. However, everyone could see clearly that Li Lingtian was standing still while the one who was sent flying was a middle-aged man. Pfft! So, the middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. At the same time, a whooshing sound could be heard in the air. In an instant, more than 30 martial saint powerhouses had arrived beside Li Lingtian. One of them was holding the middle-aged man who had been struck. Young Master. Young Master D. The injured man came before Li Lingtian and bowed respectfully. The other martial saint powerhouses did the same. Look at them. Leave these trash to me. Look at how they tremble. Li Lingtian nodded lightly and looked at Longda seriously. Longda had taken a blow on Li Lingtian's behalf and used his own body to withstand the attack of a 5th heaven martial saint. Heaven Heart looked at the martial saints in front of him. Although they were all at the 1st or 2nd sky of the martial saint realm, there were more than 30 of them. It seemed like they were all subordinates of this white-robed young man. And he was shocked. A master who could make his subordinates use their bodies to resist destructive attacks, how charming must he be? This young man in front of him had done it. His subordinates were willing to use their lives to exchange for his master's life. Chapter 654, For Symbols Sky Array. At the same time, Tian Xian and Tian Yi were shocked. At this time, he still said that he could make 4/5 sky martial saints tremble. He was either crazy or had heaven-defying abilities. It was obvious that this white-robed youth was not a lunatic. He should have heaven-defying abilities. The 4/5 sky martial saints were also extremely curious. However, they were more furious in their hearts. This subordinate will definitely keep an eye on them. 11 The martial saints beside Longda all said respectfully. They looked coldly at Tian Yi and the others. All of them circulated their true essence to the limit. As long as their opponents made the slightest movement, they would launch a shocking attack. Today, either all of you stay here or take the empty spirit pearl away. Li Lingtian's cold gaze swept across the 4 level 5 powerhouses. A cruel smile emerged from the corner of his mouth as he looked at Tian Yi and the others in the distance. With that said, he activated his divine sense and a pill appeared in front of him. He swallowed the pill. Immediately, the pill turned into true essence, and the originally exhausted true essence in his body instantly recovered to its peak state. This scene shocked the few super martial saints. They couldn't believe it because they didn't expect that there was a pill that could instantly recover Jin Yuan in this world. Naturally, they were unaware of Li Lingtian's identity. As a super divine alchemist, Li Lingtian could easily refine such a pill. Li Lingtian's true essence was restored. He grabbed at the air with one hand and made a cryptic gesture with his left hand. Suddenly, the space shook inexplicably as if it was summoned. The 4 super martial saint powerhouses were stunned when they saw this. Their bodies flashed as they dashed toward Li Lingtian. Die. Long Da's guards naturally would not allow the martial saints to attack Li Lingtian. They immediately formed a fan-shaped encirclement around Li Lingtian. A shocking attack blasted out. Even if he was a first or second sky martial saint, the attack was still earth-shattering. If he did not block it, he would suffer a destructive blow. Just as he was about to stop them, a destructive metal will of the way appeared in front of Li Lingtian and wreaked havoc in the space. Rumble. Rumble. With a series of explosions, Li Lingtian's guards had already clashed with a few super martial saints. They attacked without any regard for their lives. Even if the 4 martial saints were heaven-defying, they did not dare to fight a martial saint to the death. With the appearance of the wood will of the Great Path, everything in the world was revived. Even the heavenly fire mountain range was full of vitality. Rumble. Pft. Pft. Explosions continued. The guards were all injured, but they did not let the few martial saints take a step forward. The will of the Great Path of water appeared, and huge waves surged between heaven and earth. The air was extremely humid, and everyone seemed to have entered an endless sea. Metal will, wood will, water will. 3 types of will. Tian Xian's expression changed drastically when she sensed the aura in the air. She did not expect a young man like Li Lingtian to be able to control the will of the Great Path. In her astonishment, 3 types of will appeared. 3 types of Tao wills appeared on Li Lingtian's body, and she could not help but exclaim. The will of the Great Path was so magical that even a martial saint might not necessarily possess it. Only martial god experts could comprehend it. A martial saint powerhouse who controlled the will of the way was already heaven-defying among heaven-defying. Now, Li Lingtian, a martial emperor powerhouse, had mastered 3 heaven-defying wills. The 4 fifth firmament martial saint powerhouses retreated at this moment, knowing how terrifying Li Lingtian was. They dared not delay any longer. They could only unleash their strongest attacks to deal with Li Lingtian. If they were to fight against these guards again, they would only be waiting for death when Li Lingtian unleashed his heaven-defying divine ability. Li Lingtian's guards heaved a sigh of relief when the 4 powerhouses retreated. They moved in a flash to make way for Li Lingtian. The fire will of the Great Path appeared. Endless flames soared into the sky in the heavenly fire mountains and surged toward Li Lingtian. The endless fire will of the Great Path burned the space. At this moment, Heaven Heart and the others were shocked beyond words. No one could have imagined that there would be a genius who could control 4 types of 5 elements Tao intent in this world. Moreover, such a genius was a martial emperor powerhouse. His future was limitless. It's impossible for him to control 5 kinds of Tao intent, right? Soul Sky said in a daze. At this moment, he had already admitted that he was a genius. However, the white-robed young man was not a genius. He was a monster, a true monster. Competing with this demon was asking for a beating. After he finished speaking, his expression changed drastically and became extremely strange. The Tao of earth, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, 5 Tao intents appeared on one person. The 5 kinds of Tao intent represented the perfection of the 5 elements. 5 elements Tao intent perfection. It's actually the perfected 5 elements Tao intent. What a terrifying and heaven-defying will. Sir's prediction is true. I didn't expect that there would really be a perfected 5 elements Tao intent in this world. When the 4/5 sky martial saints sensed the 5 elements will in the space, their expressions changed drastically and became ugly. He was shocked because someone once said that if this world wanted to change, it would have to wait for the emergence of a strong practitioner of the 5 Tao wills. He did not expect to really meet a strong practitioner of the 5 Tao wills, and it was a heaven-defying strong practitioner. 5 elements great perfection of Tao intent. It's really 5 elements great perfection of Tao intent. Heaven Heart's expression changed drastically, and the expression in his eyes kept changing. Tian Yi turned around and looked at Tian Xian. His eyes were filled with confusion. His sister, who had always been calm, was actually so shocked. The entire process seemed to take a long time, but the real time was only a short 5 seconds. 5 seconds was still too long. If he didn't have guards and protection, he would have died countless times in 5 seconds. However, when the will of the 5 elements was unleashed, the world changed and the space trembled. For symbol sky array, boundless heaven and earth. When the 4 super experts saw the appearance of the 5 elements, a strange sign appeared in the world. Such a strange sign appeared and they were shocked. They had no confidence to catch it alone. He no longer had any confidence, so he could only use the strongest joint technique of the martial saint, the 4 symbols sky array. The 4 symbols sky array was known as one of the most magical arrays among the 5 elements in the world. Even if a martial monarch realm expert joined forces to cast this array, they could still kill a martial monarch realm expert. Now that 4 fifth firmament martial saints had joined hands to cast this formation, its power was indescribable. One after another, the 4 martial saints unleashed their true essence to the extreme. 4 pillars of light appeared between heaven and earth, and the 4 pillars of light quickly fused with the spells. Tian Xian was known as the number 1 genius of the Tian family in the Divine Continent. She was also one of the few peerless beauties in the Divine Continent, and she was an icy beauty. She had thought that a 9th heaven martial emperor could match a 5th heaven martial saint, so she did not put a young man in her eyes at all. However, she knew that she was wrong now. That young man in white was the real genius. With her current cultivation, she could not join the battle at all. She was not qualified to come into contact with a battle of this level. This was a magical and tragic battle, a battle between geniuses and legends. He looked at Li Lingtian with a burning gaze. Even though he was injured, his graceful figure remained unyielding as he hovered in the air. A destructive will of the Great Path appeared around him. The appearance of 5 kinds of will of the Great Path caused the world to tremble. At this moment, he stretched out his hand. His appearance was elegant and graceful. Every movement made the girls in the world fall for him. A 5-colored ball of light appeared in his palm. After the ball of light appeared, the will of heaven and earth condensed. Whoosh! A gentle breeze appeared and the light orbs dispersed, transforming into 99 5-colored spiritual pearls. The 5-colored spiritual pearls revolved around Li Lingtian and began to spin on their own. It seemed to be circulating in a disorderly manner, but it carried a mysterious and profound trajectory. There were endless array formations and the truths of heaven and earth inside. You are very honored. This is the first time I have used the 9 heaven stars with killing intent. Some time ago, Martial Saint Fengyun of the 10 great martial saints was defeated by my 9 stars in the sky. Not long after, I used this move again. However, after this move, I really started a massacre. The 5 elements of heaven and earth, the will of the 5 elements, the 9 stars in the sky. Li Lingtian muttered to himself as he looked at the 4 pillars of light in the distance. The 4 pillars of light had already formed a light shield and the spirit QJ in the world was rapidly being integrated. It emitted a dense destructive aura. He did not care about the array formation of the 5 elements at all. The 4 symbols sky array could not escape the restraints of the 5 elements. Therefore, he had mastered the 5 elements Tao intent and the heaven and earth reincarnation technique, thus he had mastered the 5 elements of heaven and earth. With that, he pointed his fingers and formed an invisible domain within a radius of 200 meters. He was the true ruler within this 200-meter radius. The 5-colored spiritual pearl was still operating in an orderly manner. It was as if an independent world was operating. The 99 5-colored spiritual pearls represented the stars in the world. When Li Lingtian unleashed the 9 heavenly stars, a small world appeared in the macro world. There was no conflict between the large and small worlds. On the contrary, the macro world's will and trajectory, as well as its will, quickly entered the small world. At that moment, no one exclaimed in surprise but was stunned. The warrior sage powerhouse beside Longda looked at Li Lingtian with admiration. Heaven Heart, Heaven One, and Lord Yuntian were all looking at the independent world of the 9 stars in the sky. Li Lingtian walked forward step by step. Although it seemed slow, it was actually very fast. In the blink of an eye, the 4 symbols sky array had already collided with the 9 stars in the sky. The scene of the end of the world appeared. The world only trembled in front of the 2 destruction. Boom! Boom! Rumble! Walala! Kacha, kacha! Rip, rip! Rumble! Destructive explosions continuously sounded in the sky. The ground trembled and collapsed, and the Heaven Fire mountain range also quickly collapsed. Shocking flames soared into the sky. Even from tens of thousands of miles away, one could see the destruction in the Heaven Fire mountain range. Sensing the destructive aura, countless curious experts who had rushed to the Heaven Fire mountain range could only look at the destruction in the Heaven Fire mountain range in horror. Chapter 655, The Power of the 9 Stars in the Sky. Whoosh! Whoosh! The experts at the center of the Sky Fire mountain range quickly retreated. Even Longda and the others retreated 100 miles, but they were still destroyed. However, Longda and the others did not dare to stray too far away from Li Lingtian as he had to defend Li Lingtian at the first sign of danger. Skyheart Tianyi and Lord Yuntian looked at the destroyed world with shock in their eyes. Li Lingtian's true essence was rapidly draining away from his body. His eyes were filled with a blood-red glow and he looked devilish and terrifying. The 9 heavenly stars had already reached their limits. The 200-meter-wide domain and the stars revolved, continuously bombarding the 4 symbol sky array. A storm descended, and the world seemed to have reached the end of the world. On the other side, the 4 supreme martial saints were not having a good time either. Even though the 4 symbol sky array that the supreme martial saints cast together could destroy the world, it was still restricted by Li Lingtian's 9 heavenly stars. Among the 5 elements, they had lost in terms of inborn. However, they had the advantage of having a 5th firmament martial saint and numbers. They were still in a stalemate with Li Lingtian. For a moment, the 2 destructive attacks were evenly matched. The sky and the earth cracked, and the Heavenly Fire mountain range was quickly destroyed. At this moment, the only thing Li Lingtian and the 4 powerhouses could do was to exhaust their opponent's true essence. Whoever could last the longest would be the final winner. Shoo! The 4 fifth sky martial saints let out a breath of cold air at the same time. Victory was in their grasp now that they had finally managed to hold off the 9 skies star. As long as they could exhaust Li Lingtian's true essence, victory would be theirs. No matter how powerful a martial monarch realm expert was, he was only a martial monarch realm expert. In terms of true energy, it was impossible for him to match a martial saint realm expert. This was the most terrifying expert they had ever met in their lives. He was the most heaven-defying monster that forced them to join forces with a martial emperor realm. Even if they encountered a 6th or 7th sky martial saint, they had never been in such danger. Seconds passed. The changes in the Heavenly Fire mountain range attracted countless experts to come and watch. However, when they saw the destruction in the Heavenly Fire mountain range, they were incomparably shocked. What's going on inside? Could it be that something strange has happened in the Heavenly Fire mountain range? Could it be that a heaven-defying treasure has appeared? What exactly happened? Countless martial artists who did not know the situation were extremely curious, but they did not dare to get too close to the Heavenly Fire mountain range. His eyes were filled with fear. The Heavenly Fire mountain range within a radius of 100,000 miles had actually collapsed like this. There must be some terrifying existence inside. Shoo, it said that a heaven-defying expert is fighting with 4/5 sky martial saints inside. We don't know what exactly happened. What? A battle between martial saints can destroy the world? That's impossible. The battle between the martial saints won't cause the destruction of the Sky Fire mountain range. Those who did not know the situation naturally did not believe in the great battle of martial saints. Even martial saints were not so heaven-defying. Even if a martial saint was heaven-defying, it was impossible for him to cause the destruction of the heavenly fire mountain range. If they knew that there was a martial monarch realm expert fighting 4 martial monarch realm experts inside, they would be so shocked that their jaws would drop. Blood trickled down the corner of Li Lingtian's mouth, but his eyes were sharp. He knew better than anyone else that he could not kill 4/5 sky martial saints with the 9 heaven stars. The reason was that his cultivation was too low. If his cultivation was a little higher, he could break the other parties for symbols heaven array. This was the difference between a martial saint and a martial supreme. It was already heaven-defying to be able to stand on par with 4/5 firmament martial saints. If it was just a 5th sky martial saint, he would definitely be able to eliminate him. However, he could not do anything to 4/5 sky martial saints when they joined forces to cast a heaven-defying formation. At the same time, he also understood that the other party could not do anything to him. The only thing he could do now was to fight with his true essence. His genuine vitality was so powerful that it defied the natural order. He was at the 5th heaven of the martial emperor realm, and his cultivation was as thick as the 3rd heaven of the martial saint realm. At this moment, the expressions of the 4/5 heaven martial saints gradually changed. It seemed that their plan to deplete Li Lingtian's true essence was not right. A martial monarch realm expert's true origin was actually so heaven-defying that he could persist until now. Puff! Li Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood. The 4 martial saints were relieved as Li Lingtian's true essence had reached its end. Even though they had little true essence left, they were still in a much better state than Li Lingtian. They would definitely be able to exhaust their true essence before Li Lingtian ran out of true essence. Heaven Heart looked at the battle in the distance and was shocked. Although that young man was a match for her, she was still shocked. If this young man was not a match for her, he would definitely defy the heavens in the future and become one of the top figures in the divine martial continent. Give me your true chi. The powerhouses present could see Li Lingtian's true essence running out, and they could already see the end in their hearts. At that moment, Li Lingtian shouted. None of them could understand the meaning behind Li Lingtian's words. It was a simple sentence, but they were completely baffled. Only Long De and the others understood Li Lingtian's intentions. Immediately, a dozen martial saint powerhouses flew toward Li Lingtian and hovered within 5 kilometers of him. Could it be that they want to give him their true chi? Heaven Heart and the 4 martial saint powerhouses looked at the dozen or so martial saint powerhouses and were shocked and in disbelief when they recalled Li Lingtian's words. In this world, even if it was the Enlightenment method, it was impossible to give true essence to others unless it was forcefully applied during cultivation. Moreover, Li Lingtian was about to use up his primordial chi when he unleashed his heaven-defying divine ability. It was impossible for him to receive any more primordial chi. However, what happened next stunned the few experts and the Heaven Heart sisters. I won't die. At least, no one in the divine martial continent can kill me. It's even more impossible for you. Devouring light. Li Lingtian stared coldly at the 4 powerhouses before him. Even at this moment, he was still standing proudly in the air with an air of arrogance and dominance. A spell seal was cast, and the 9 stars in the sky quickly circulated. Then, he waved his hands, and several hand seals crisscrossed in the air. Then, he grabbed at the air with both hands. Instantly, heaven and earth shook, and the spiritual energy in the space surged. The dozen or so martial saint powerhouses quickly released their primordial chi, and the primordial chi surged toward Li Lingtian. Spirit Qi and true essence entered the 9 skies stars, and the 9 skies stars became even stronger. Li Lingtian's true essence was also recovering rapidly. Pft, pft. More than a dozen martial saint realm experts quickly lost their true essence and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the loss of true essence stopped halfway. Li Lingtian's goal had shifted to taking the heaven and earth spirit Qi for himself. Seeing this scene, all the martial saint powerhouses were extremely moved. This was because they knew that Li Lingtian's rate of recovery by absorbing quintessential essence was faster than his rate of recovery by absorbing spirit QJ. However, for the sake of their cultivation base, he had stopped absorbing quintessential essence. Even at this time, he would not let his subordinates get hurt. The more dangerous the moment, the more one could see a person's character and character. A master, in a moment of danger, could still think for his subordinates at the first moment. Who could have such boldness and quality? Similarly, the rest of the group could tell what Li Lingtian was trying to do and were all astonished. The astonishing spirit Qi was continuously converted into true essence, and Li Lingtian's depleted true essence had been completely restored. However, his face was getting paler and paler. The 4 martial arts saints had already resigned themselves to their fate. They could not defeat Li Lingtian and could only fight with their true essence. Now that his cultivation base had recovered, their true essence had reached its end. They did not expect Li Lingtian to possess such a heaven-defying almighty divine power apart from the elixir. He could absorb heaven and earth spiritual QJ and convert it into true essence. Die. Li Lingtian's eyes were icy cold as he circulated his true essence to the maximum. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. The 9 heavenly stars quickly pressed down on the opponent's 4-symbol sky array. The domain-like world of light instantly broke through the 4-symbol sky array. The 4 super martial saints entered the 9 sky stars. Their Zhen Yuan had already reached the end. The destruction of the 4-symbol sky array had completely exhausted the Zhen Yuan of the 4 martial saints. After entering the 9 heaven star, they could not even move their fingers. Moreover, they were even more terrifying because Li Lingtian's consciousness was everywhere in the 9 skies of stars. He could kill them with a single thought. In this place, Li Lingtian was the master. No! Li Lingtian made a grabbing motion with one hand and 4 martial saint powerhouses floated in front of him. He could destroy them with a single thought because he was the master of the 9 skies. But at this moment, Heaven Heart exclaimed. She wanted to stop Li Lingtian from killing the 4 martial saints, but she knew how terrifying Li Lingtian was. She could do nothing but despair. When Li Lingtian heard Tian Xian's voice, he turned to look at her. He saw her cold and noble temperament, but her eyes were filled with despair. When he saw this cold arrogance, he thought of Tang Qingyue's appearance. When Tang Qingyue was in the Azure continent, she must have been like this, with helpless and desperate eyes. Thinking of the 3,000 cycles of waiting for Qingwu, he couldn't help but look at the void with a trace of longing in his eyes. Get lost. At this moment, his killing intent had not disappeared, but a trace of fluctuation appeared in his heart. With a cold shout, all the vital essence in his body erupted. With a wave of his hand, the 4 martial saints disappeared from the 9 stars in the sky and were quickly thrown into the distance. The 9 stars in the sky also disappeared in an instant. The 99 5-colored spiritual pearls returned to his hand and finally disappeared. At the same time, he spat out another mouthful of blood. His body swayed, and he looked extremely miserable. The 4 martial saint powerhouses and Heaven Heart's trio were astonished by this action. They did not expect Li Lingtian to let the 4 martial saint powerhouses go. Logically speaking, Li Lingtian's killing intent had not disappeared. Under such circumstances, he could have killed the 4 martial saints with a single thought, but he had let them go. Although Long De and the rest were somewhat puzzled, they could only carry out whatever Li Lingtian did unconditionally without doubting his intentions. Chapter 656, Mysterious in Grotto Heaven Finger. After the four martial saints were thrown out, they arrived in front of Heaven Heart and the others. Lord Yuntian made a grabbing motion with one hand, and the four figures that were flying backward stopped. Blood continuously flowed out from the corners of their mouths. The destructive aura between heaven and earth slowly calmed down. However, at this time, the heavenly fire mountain range had been completely destroyed. The raging flames shook the sky, and the endless world of flames continued to run amok. The empty spirit pearl floated in the air, and the flames avoided the empty spirit pearl. Li Lingtian only calmed down slightly after tossing a pill into his mouth. Looking at the ethereal pearl floating in the air, he used his divine sense and a stream of light appeared between his eyebrows. When the stream of light appeared in the air, the golden light was extremely dazzling. A mystical array diagram appeared before Li Lingtian. The array diagram exuded a mysterious aura and the world fell silent before the diagram. Divine array diagram, divine array diagram. It really is a divine array diagram. Lord Yuntian looked at the divine array diagram in front of Li Lingtian and his expression changed drastically. In the end, it turned into excitement as he stammered out the words. He was a sacred array master, so he naturally understood ancient treasures and even more so the ultimate treasures of the array path. The divine array diagram in front of Li Lingtian was not faked at all. Naturally, he was shocked and excited when he saw it. Your array Dao is not bad, but it's still quite lacking. Li Lingtian raised his head and looked at the shocked Lord Yuntian in the distance. A holy array master was a powerful and heaven-defying existence. He could create countless array Dao above the heaven level and could even create divine array formations. However, Li Lingtian had already surpassed the level of a holy array master and was now able to use divine level array formations with ease. You are a holy array master? Lord Yuntian was stunned and anger surged in his heart. He had been loyal to the array Dao all his life, yet someone actually said that he, a saint array master, was lacking by quite a bit. Wasn't this shameless? However, he was even more shocked when he saw Li Lingtian's incantation gestures and the changes in the divine array diagram. This was because Li Lingtian's technique and dermic incantation were extremely mystical. He was definitely a powerful and heaven-defying holy array master. Therefore, he could not help but ask, his tone filled with disbelief. Holy array master? Li Lingtian looked at Lord Yuntian with a confident smile before he shook his head. However, this time, he shook his head. He could see the disdain on Li Lingtian's face as he disdained the title of Holy Array Master. What he meant was, what was so great about a Holy Array Master? In front of him, the Holy Array Master was weak. Seeing this, Lord Yuntian's expression changed drastically. He even looked down on a sacred array master. Could it be that he was a divine array master? A divine array master who could casually cast a divine great array and could come into contact with an ancient divine array? He did not ask any more questions and neither did Li Lingtian. Instead, he focused on casting the technique. Swoosh. At that moment, Li Lingtian cast the last incantation gesture. A golden pillar of light appeared on the divine array diagram. The pillar of light contained an endless mystical array. At the same time, the beam of light shot towards the ethereal pearl floating in the air. Chi-chi, shi-shi. A sizzling sound was emitted from the surroundings of the empty spirit pearl, and the space was constantly trembling. Hearing this voice and the situation in front of the void spirit pearl, Lord Yuntian was shocked. His expression kept changing, and finally, it became ugly. As a holy array master, he actually did not notice the mysterious restriction around the empty spirit pearl. He also did not expect the restriction to be so terrifying. On the other hand, Li Lingtian seemed to have known about it all along. Could this be the difference between the two of them? Had this young man really surpassed a holy array master? Crash. The restriction disappeared, and the empty spirit pearl was exposed in space. Immediately, the world was filled with an ethereal aura. The endless spiritual chi became without any attributes. This world seemed to have returned to the primitive world. The spiritual chi was heavy but without attributes. The world was clear and quiet, and the flames had calmed down. Empty spirit pearl. This is the power of the empty spirit pearl. What a good empty spirit pearl. This is the ethereal aura. Void spirit chi is indeed magical. Instantly, everyone exclaimed. Li Lingtian made a grabbing motion with one hand and the ethereal pearl returned to his hand. He then cast several incantation seals to seal the ethereal pearl before storing it into the divine dragon ring. The ethereal aura also completely disappeared at this time. The battle for the treasure had ended. The heavenly fire mountain range was destroyed. Countless martial emperors and martial saints were almost all destroyed. Tian Xian, Tian Yi, and a few martial saint realm experts looked at all of this in desolation. Lord Yuntian's eyes were burning as he stared at the divine array diagram in front of Li Lingtian. However, his eyes were filled with disappointment in the end because the divine array diagram had already recognized its master and merged with Li Lingtian. No one could use it anymore. Just as everyone was about to leave the heavenly fire mountain range, their faces changed drastically. The expression on Li Lingtian's face changed. With a flick of his divine consciousness, he kept the divine array diagram. The rest of the powerhouses followed Li Lingtian's gaze as they stared at the void with a grave expression. A grid appeared in the air, and a cold wind blew. The world turned cold. Even on the heavenly fire mountain range, Li Lingtian and the rest could feel the chill as if they had arrived in the netherworld. Even though Li Lingtian had entered Underworld City before, he could not help but shudder at the cold aura. The sudden change made everyone present extremely solemn. Those who came here were all here for the empty spirit pearl. Now that the empty spirit pearl was in Li Lingtian's hands, another battle was inevitable. Li Lingtian, I'll take you back to be punished for killing the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. In the void, an old man in his 50s appeared in the grid. The old man's aura was shocking. It was as if a true god was looking down at the people below. His cold gaze swept across the crowd before finally landing on Li Lingtian. It appeared that the old man did not know who Li Lingtian was. After sizing him up, he finally confirmed that the young man in white was Li Lingtian. However, his eyes were filled with confusion. This white-robed young man was only at the 5th level of the martial emperor realm. How did he kill the first prince and his guards? However, the aura on Li Lingtian's body was the aura left behind after he killed the first prince. Capture me back. Ignorant. I am the young emperor of Qingxian, the ruler of the Xiaoyao Empire. Killing that trash was just a convenience. Li Lingtian's face revealed a look of disdain. What kind of joke was this? He was the young emperor of Qingxian, the ruler of the Xiaoyao Empire, yet he was still captured by others. He was simply ignorant. Since such a war had occurred in Qingxian, it meant that they had already started to separate from Moonsong Kingdom. Yet, this guy was still so ignorant. Li Lingtian? Could it be that legendary figure from Moonsong Kingdom? Lord Yuntian, Heaven Heart, and the others muttered to themselves. They had never known who this young man was. Now that his name was called out, they finally remembered that legendary figure. Now, he understood that only a legendary figure could be so heaven-defying. You recording death. Heavenly E Knight's face turned cold. A martial emperor actually dared to oppose him like this. Wasn't this an insult to him? With that said, he waved his hand and a devastating force of suppression crashed down on Li Lingtian. The devastating attack shattered the space and arrived before Li Lingtian in an instant. True Dragon Body Protection. Heavenly Devil Region. Li Lingtian's heart trembled. He understood that the elder's arrival was not for the empty spirit pearl but for the first prince. He regretted not wiping his aura away at that time. Otherwise, he would not have provoked this heaven-defying warrior sage powerhouse. Looking at the old man's attack, his heart trembled. This old man's cultivation base was much stronger than the wind cloud martial saints. With one strike, he could destroy the world. The true essence in his body circulated, and the true dragon body protection cycle was activated. The limitless feather coat was also activated, and the heavenly demon domain was displayed. Boom! With a loud explosion, the destructive attack landed on Li Lingtian. A supreme martial saint powerhouse had a powerful cultivation base and was extremely powerful. His speed was also extremely fast. He completely ignored the distance between them. A martial emperor powerhouse did not even have the chance to retaliate. The destructive attack landed on Li Lingtian's body, destroying the heavenly demon region and the true dragon's body barrier. His entire body was thrown up like a kite with a broken string. In the end, he fell into the raging flames and was completely devoured by them. The martial emperor powerhouse did not even have the chance to retaliate against a supreme martial saint powerhouse's attack. Li Lingtian was already injured from the previous battle with the martial saint. Now, even if he used his defense, he would still be hit into the flames with a single strike. His life and death were unknown. I heard that the empty spirit pearl is also here. All of you are going to die. I'll let you die knowing what's going on. I'm the Venerable Tian Yin, ranked 9th among the 10 great martial saints. Tian Yin Knight looked at Tian Yi and the others and said coldly. However, when he looked at Heaven Heart, his eyes revealed an evil smile. He kept sizing up Heaven Heart, and his mouth kept making clicking sounds. Seeing this, Heaven Heart's expression turned even colder. The 4 guards' cultivation had been sealed and their true essence had been exhausted. They were inferior to an ordinary martial artist. In the eyes of Heavenly Yin Knight, they were all martial emperor powerhouses and could be killed casually. You're courting death. Humph. Heaven Heart snorted coldly and the cold aura around him changed. He looked at Heavenly Yin Knight coldly and the power of flames in the world started to tremble. He quickly rushed towards her, his left hand grabbing at the endless flames in the void, and the invisible power of the flames entered in front of him. She made a mysterious gesture with her right hand and slowly placed it between her eyebrows. The golden rune flame on his forehead emitted an icy chill. Then, a strange flame appeared on his finger. The flame flickered non-stop as if it was alive. Golden flame. When he saw the flames in Tian Xian's hand, his heart trembled. He didn't know Tian Xian's background, but he knew a little about the mysterious alien flame in the world. Moreover, the golden flame was one of the most mysterious flames in the ancient times. It was recorded in ancient books. However, he did not expect that this black-robed woman, who was as cold as an ice mountain, would have such a terrifying golden flame. In his shock, he circulated all the true essence in his body. Mysterious Yin Cave Finger. Heavenly Yin Knight did not dare to be careless at this moment. A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Even if the woman in front of him was only at the 9th level of the martial emperor realm, she controlled the golden flame. The terror of the golden flame made him not dare to be careless. Chapter 657, Mysterious Yin Divine Shield. Seeing the golden flames, he immediately used his shocking trump card, the Mysterious Yin Cave Finger. The Mysterious Yin Grotto Heaven Finger was known as a top-notch heaven-grade divine power. With the addition of his 5th heavenly layer martial saint cultivation, one strike could destroy the world. Even if he couldn't kill the woman in black, he could at least block the golden flames. As long as he could get rid of the golden flame, he would be able to kill these people and obtain the empty spirit pearl. As for Li Lingtian, he was nowhere to be seen. He must have been killed in a single strike before being turned into nothingness by the raging flames. Chi chi chi, the black Een grotto heaven finger pierced through the void and instantly arrived in front of Heaven Heart. The golden flames in Heaven Heart's hand also turned into a lotus flower and crashed towards the heavenly Een Venerable's black Een heavenly finger. The space trembled as the two attacks collided. The golden flame trembled non-stop. The power of the mysterious Een grotto heaven finger was getting closer and closer, as if it wanted to disperse the golden flame. The fifth sky of the martial saint realm had shocking strength. Even when facing Jin Yen, he had the advantage. Seeing that his black Een cave heaven finger had gained the upper hand, Dark Sky Knight revealed a sinister smile as if he saw a few people trembling in front of him. Heaven Heart and Heaven One panicked and they saw Jin Yen retreating. Even the terrifying golden flames were forced back, so they naturally panicked. There were two worlds and two levels between a martial supreme and a martial saint. Even if the golden flame could destroy the world, its master's cultivation was too low to make up for the difference in realm. The mysterious Een grotto heaven finger was already within 10 meters of the heart of the heavens, and he could feel the aura of death. Feeling the destruction and coldness of the mysterious Een cave heaven finger, he had no other choice at this moment. His eyes revealed a look of despair. Phew! At this moment, the air trembled. In the raging flames, a destructive sword intent soared into the sky. The raging flames exploded and a figure flew up. That familiar figure was dressed in white. Although his chest was covered in blood, he was completely unharmed. They were all shocked when they saw this figure appear. They had thought that Li Lingtian was dead, but he was now floating in the air. Everyone was shocked except Long De and the others. They were well aware of Li Lingtian's strength and means. No one in this world could kill him easily. Li Lingtian hovered in the air with a cold gaze. His shocking sword will filled the space and he stood proudly like a sharp sword between heaven and earth. The heavenly demon region had been shattered by the heavenly Een Venerable's attack. The true dragon body barrier was also broken. However, there was still the limitless feather coat behind the true dragon body barrier. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had the flaming sacred body and the heavenly sword body. He had been tempered by the true dragon's chi and his physique was shockingly strong. Even a tier 8 demonic beast might not be stronger than him. Even though Heavenly Een Knight's attack was terrifying, most of it was blocked by Heavenly Demon Region and the true dragon body barrier, and a portion of it was blocked by Limitless Feather Coat. When the real attack landed on him, only 10 to 20% of it was left. With his physique, it was naturally easy for him to receive it. However, he hid in the flames and relied on the flaming sacred body to heal his injuries and stabilize his injuries. Seeing how terrifying the black Een grotto heaven finger of Heavenly Een Venerable was, if Heavenly Een Venerable killed Heaven Heart, it would be troublesome to deal with Heavenly Een. If he joined forces with Heaven Heart now, he could defeat him. Heavenly Een Knight's cultivation wasn't as strong as Martial Saint Qingmi's. Even Martial Saint Qingmi's water will was defeated by Heaven Heart. Now that he had encountered Heavenly Een Venerable, but was restrained by his black Een grotto heaven finger, there must be something wrong with his heart. He didn't want to face Heavenly Een Knight alone. He was ranked 9th among the 10 great martial saints, but he wasn't someone easy to deal with. The shocking sword intent wreaked havoc in the space. However, at that moment, Li Lingtian's aura changed. The shocking sword intent disappeared, but a stream of light appeared between his eyebrows. The stream of light disappeared and turned into a crystal clear long sword. Li Lingtian's eyes turned serious as the Tianyu sword appeared before him. The Tianyu sword emitted a shocking pressure. It was the pressure of a saint weapon. This was the pressure of a supreme saint weapon. The sky was instantly suppressed by this pressure. The expression on Heavenly Een Venerable's face kept changing. He did not expect Li Lingtian to be so strong. He did not die after one blow and was still so powerful. As the Tianyu sword spun, Li Lingtian's sword intent transformed into sword force. Instantly, the Tianyu sword burst out with 100-meter-long sword radiance. The sword radiance was shocking and Li Lingtian's figure disappeared as well. It was as if he had merged into the sword radiance. Heaven-sword unity. When Li Lingtian's figure landed, the sword radiance had already surpassed Venerable Tian Yin's and was slashing toward him. The shocking sword light brought with it a supreme sword aura. The sword aura caused the power of heaven and earth to change, and the expression on Venerable Tian Yin's face changed. He did not expect a martial emperor powerhouse to be able to control force in this world. Moreover, it was a sharp and overbearing sword force. While he was shocked, he revealed a helpless expression. Although the mysterious Yin Grotto Heaven Finger had the upper hand, it was impossible to kill Heaven Heart in a short period of time. Moreover, Li Lingtian's sword radiance had arrived in an instant. The entire process seemed to take a long time, but it was actually just a moment. Profound Yin Divine Shield. When Heavenly Yin Knight saw the sword light coming, he did not hesitate anymore. A trace of reluctance flashed across his eyes, and his face was filled with determination. He took out a drop of blood essence, and the blood essence burned in the air. Immediately, an exquisite shield appeared between his eyebrows, but the shield emitted a shocking pressure. With the dense Yin Qi pressure, even the pressure of the Tianyu sword felt insignificant in front of this shield. The experts present were all shocked and they saw this divine mysterious Yin shield. This was because this divine mysterious Yin shield was a true divine artifact, a divine artifact like shield. With such a divine artifact as a defense, what other attacks and treasures could break through it? In an instant, the sword light had already struck down with supreme sword aura. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the sword ray ruthlessly struck the divine shield when it was unfolded. Between heaven and earth, destructive sword aura and sword intent wreaked havoc, and shocking gales tore through space. At this moment, Heaven Heart immediately ignited his primeval essence and his golden flame sword, reversing his advantage. The power of the mysterious Yin Grotto Heaven Finger and the golden flame were on par. Ding! With a soft sound, the profound Yin divine shield flashed and trembled. However, the divine shield was not destroyed. The sword radiance disappeared and Li Lingtian's figure appeared in the air. Blood was flowing out of his mouth and his hand was trembling as he held the Tianyu sword. This time, the integration of the heaven and sword didn't use the will of the way of metal. It was beyond his imagination to encounter a divine artifact's defensive shield. The attack did not defeat the other party. Instead, it affected his own injuries. His injuries were further aggravated, and his veins were in a mess. Not bad, the turtle shell is very hard. Li Lingtian's face was deathly pale but the smile on his lips remained. At this moment, he looked miserable. His divine sense moved, and the Tianyu sword was put away. He looked coldly at Heavenly Yin Knight. At this moment it was difficult for Heavenly Yin Knight to back down. He could only rely on the mystic Yin divine shield to defend. He had to accelerate the mystic Yin Grotto Heaven Finger to escape from the Golden Flame's attack while guarding against Li Lingtian. A super martial saint powerhouse was really depressed at this point. Moreover, he was being restrained by two martial emperors. It was really embarrassing. Is a divine artifact that amazing? Li Lingtian replied indifferently. He wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth and channeled all his true essence. The sudden change in his aura wasn't sword will or will of the great path. Instead, it was a saber intent that could destroy the world. The saber had the power to split mountains and had the power to press forward. Saber intent was destructive intent. Li Lingtian's divine consciousness moved and the Empyrean Terminus Emperor Saber appeared in his hand from his dantian. A shocking divine weapon's pressure burst forth. A true divine artifact, a super divine artifact. Compared to the mystic Yin divine shield, it was many levels and grades stronger. The world trembled uneasily in front of the divine artifact's pressure. A divine artifact. Super divine artifact. Tian Xian, and Heavenly Knight exclaimed when they felt the divine artifact's pressure in the air. His heart was already in a daze. It was enough for a martial emperor to have a heaven-defying supreme-grade saint weapon. Why did he have a super-divine weapon? This divine artifact was definitely not a low-level one. It was definitely one of those rare divine artifacts. While they were exclaiming, Tian and Tian Xian were excited. At the very least, Li Lingtian was their temporary partner. At the very least, they had to kill Venerable Tian first. The stronger Li Lingtian was, the happier they were. Li Lingtian looked at the extreme overlord saber in his hand as the saber intent in his entire body revolved. Destructive vital essence surged into the extreme overlord saber while the saber intent gave rise to the momentum of a divine weapon. Tyrannical blade art, desolate 10 consecutive slashes. With a light shout, the extreme overlord saber in his hand slashed down fiercely. The first move of the tyrant sword art, desolate 10 consecutive strikes, was already a top-notch heaven-grade divine power. Coupled with a divine weapon like the Heaven Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber, the void shattered with one strike. In the air, 10 saber lights overlapped and slashed down, splitting the space into two halves. Kacha. 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 10 destructive saber flares appeared to be 10, but there was actually only one when they struck down. The overlapping of the 10 saber flares was like the power of 1,000 waves. The Darkeen divine shield kept exploding, and Venerable Tian spat out mouthfuls of blood. Ah! With a loud roar, the mysterious heavenly finger burst out fiercely, instantly repelling Jin Yen. Heaven Heart was thrown out and he spat out a mouthful of blood. On her exquisite and perfect face, there were traces of blood at the corner of her mouth, making her look extremely miserable. At the same time, the desolate 10 consecutive strikes broke through the defense of the mysterious Dark Divine Shield. The mysterious Dark Divine Shield was a divine weapon, but it could not withstand the heavenly Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber and the desolate 10 consecutive strikes. It quickly turned into its original form. The last blade light landed on Heavenly Knight's body and he was thrown out. Li Lingtian's body swayed as his true essence was depleted. Blood trickled out from the corner of his mouth. The sky instantly quieted down. The mysterious cave heaven finger disappeared, the golden flame disappeared, and the desolate 10 consecutive strikes disappeared. Chapter 658, Killing Heavenly Knight. Heavenly Knight was thrown 10 miles away before he managed to stabilize himself. A dignified martial saint super powerhouse was forced to such a state. Grand Moon Venerable knew that the Darkeen Divine Shield could not withstand Li Lingtian's final attack. It was impossible for a divine weapon to defend against a super divine weapon and divine power. Therefore, he decisively used all his mental energy and true essence to repel the golden flames. This way, even if he was injured, he could still defeat an opponent and not be suppressed by the two of them. Li Lingtian suffered a backlash after injuring Venerable Tian in one blow. However, his confidence was boosted. As long as he could injure his opponent, he would not be a god and he could defeat it as well. Continue. Today, it's either you die or I die. Li Lingtian's eyes shone brightly as he glared coldly at Venerable Tian. His aura soared into the sky. He didn't seem to be injured, but he knew that it was the end of the attack. The more he did, the more afraid he was. Even though Li Lingtian was a martial supreme, his strength was so terrifying that even a supreme martial saint like him was afraid of him. Junior, you killed the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. If you still dare to resist, you'll only bring disaster to your family. Today, I'll kill you and then kill your family. A sinister expression appeared on Tian Knight's face. Although there were not many outsiders here, it was still embarrassing for a super powerhouse like him to be defeated by a martial emperor powerhouse. Li Lingtian's attack had left a shadow in his heart. If he did not kill this young man, he would have a heart demon. Good, good, very good. If I don't destroy Moonsong Kingdom and kill you, I'm not fit to be a human. The 5 elements are mutually reinforcing and restraining each other. Ice and fire are incompatible. Today, I will let ice and fire be compatible and defy the heavens. Ice, fire, 9 heavens, 4th heaven, forbidden. Li Lingtian's killing intent had reached its peak. He hated those who threatened his family and loved ones the most. He could be indifferent about other matters, but he had to eliminate those who threatened his loved ones. His body was injured to the extreme, and he could not fight anymore. However, he would definitely not let this heavenly night stay. The true essence in his entire body was circulated to the limit. The true dragon body protection protected his body. The limitless feather coat was also activated, and the heavenly demon domain was displayed. All kinds of defenses in his body were activated at this moment. The flaming sacred body and the ice soul martial soul were activated. He was like a demon lord floating in the air. His hair was floating in the air, and the blood-red rune between his eyebrows was even more dazzling and demonic. Heaven Heart and the others could feel Li Lingtian's anger. This was the first time they had experienced Li Lingtian's ultimate move, and they understood Li Lingtian's personality. Previously, no matter what happened, he did not realize that Li Lingtian had the chance to kill him. However, now that Venerable Tian threatened his family, Li Lingtian had the chance to kill him. He must be very protective of his family. Li Lingtian extended his hands. Deep blue ice appeared in one palm while purple flames appeared in the other. 2 extremes appeared in the space. Suddenly, a destructive aura erupted in the space, making people feel the threat of death. Since you're courting death, I'll kill you today even if my cultivation falls. Sky Venerable did not know what kind of heaven-defying move Li Lingtian was about to unleash. However, when he saw the 2 strange flames and ice, he was shocked and did not dare to be careless. It was already too late to regret provoking this person that he should not have provoked. He had to kill him now. Otherwise, he would be a future threat. Perhaps his old life would be handed over to this young man. The mysterious heaven annihilation, the true body of the King of Hell, annihilates all living beings. Heavenly Knight muttered to himself coldly. He circulated his true essence and suppressed his injuries. Instantly, his injuries were gone. His cultivation base had also increased tremendously, from the 5th sky of the Martial Saint Realm to the peak of the 5th sky of the Martial Saint Realm. At the same time, his entire person changed rapidly. It was as if Hades had possessed him. The destructive profound Chi filled the space, and the space trembled continuously. With a wave of his hand, he swung it down at Li Lingtian like a mountain. His palm was covered in a layer of green radiance that gave off an uncomfortable feeling. A simple strike caused the space to tremble and the earth to collapse. At that moment, Li Lingtian's frosty chi and blazing flames were circulating to their maximum capacity. He quickly put his hands together. Heaven Heart's eyes were filled with shock. A type of heaven-burning raging flames was enough to destroy everything. There was also an extreme cold energy that was enough to freeze the entire world. It was the presence of 2 types of destructive fear that had appeared on Li Lingtian alone. She had never expected that Li Lingtian would combine the 2 extremes together. Was this not suicide? However, she understood that Li Lingtian was not a fool. He was not seeking death either. He was combining the 2 extremes with his ability and confidence. As expected, the moment his hands joined together, the aura of death, destruction, and extinction appeared between heaven and earth. The 3 auras fused together and a pillar of light appeared in Li Lingtian's hand in an instant. The aura of death and destruction between heaven and earth gathered together. The void trembled. The heavenly fire mountain range had been razed to the ground. The beam of light ignored the distance between them and struck towards the venerable Tian. Wherever it passed, the space was pierced. When he saw this situation, Heavenly Knight's expression changed drastically. His eyes revealed a despair that he had never seen before. Other than a divine weapon, a martial emperor powerhouse had a skill that made him feel so hopeless. Tian Xian and Tian Yi's expressions kept changing. They knew that the other party hadn't used his full strength at the start. Otherwise, no one would have been able to block this destructive beam of light. Ice and fire countered each other and collided with each other to the extreme. However, when the two extremes were fused, the power that erupted was tens of millions of times stronger. Such power would even cause a god to lose a layer of skin. The two attacks collided. There was a brief silence between heaven and earth. However, after the short silence, there was a destructive explosion. The entire space was constantly shattered and destroyed. Tian Yi, Tian Xian, and the others, as well as Long De and the others, hurriedly activated their defenses and flew into the distance. At this time, when the space collapsed, even a martial saint powerhouse would disappear into thin air. At this moment, the light pillar burst out with a shocking five-colored light. Heavenly Knight became the center of the light pillar's attack. The pillar of light exploded, forming a ball of light. The light quickly swept out, destroying everything in its path. Ah! A blood-curdling scream resounded through the heavens and the earth as Heavenly Knight was destroyed in the halo. His entire body was penetrated by the destructive halo. His entire body was covered in destructive ice and fire chi. After the extreme ice flame and the destructive and violent flame fused, they continuously destroyed his body. Pft! Pft! Li Lingtian's body fell toward the heavenly fire mountain range. At this moment, he no longer had any true essence left in his body and his veins were all severed. His entire body was covered in blood, and his body was already severely damaged. If it was any other martial emperor or martial saint, they would have died countless times. However, he still fought with the 9th-ranked Heavenly Knight in the end and used his final trump card, the Ice-Fire 9th Heaven Taboo. Under such circumstances, even a god would die. Young Master. At that moment, Long De, who was watching Li Lingtian fall from a distance, shouted out in anger. With a wave of his hand, more than 30 martial saints flew towards the venerable Tian, bombarding him with destructive attacks. Long De's figure flashed as he transformed into a flood dragon. In the blink of an eye, he was not far away from Li Lingtian and caught him. Heavenly Knight was already dead, but he had been destroyed by the attacks of more than 30 martial saints. His entire body had long disappeared. Let's go. Long De brought Li Lingtian along as they swiftly flew through the air. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared from the heavenly fire mountain range. On the sky fire mountain range, Tianyi, Tianxin, and the others were all extremely shocked as they watched the figure disappear into the horizon. This would be the most legendary battle they had ever seen. A martial emperor had defied the heavens countless times and defeated all the other powerhouses before he was injured in the end. This time, hundreds of martial sovereigns and hundreds of martial saints had fallen in this place. Even 4/5 sky martial saints had been defeated by the 4-symbol sky array. The 9th-ranked martial saint, Heavenly Knight, had also vanished into thin air. That unyielding figure was forever left in their hearts, leaving behind that heaven-defying and unrestrained figure. The magical and destructive music, the heaven-defying will of the 5 elements, the domineering stars in the 9 heavens, the destructive sword will and the heavenly sword merging into one, the unparalleled desolate 10 consecutive slashes, and finally the peerless ice/fire/9 heavens. All of this was the charm of a peerless monster, a legend that made all the experts in the world admire and envy. In the heavenly fire mountain range, the raging flames gradually disappeared. The Sky Fire mountain range had completely disappeared and become history. However, this place had witnessed the birth of a legend. The whereabouts of the empty spirit pearl were unknown, and Soul Sky, Tianxin, and the others left. No one knew what had happened here. Only after a long time did the rumors about the Sky Fire mountain range spread, shocking the world. Longda led Li Lingtian and the group quickly left the Heavenly Fire mountain range and flew toward Qjianji Xian. The group of them hurried through the night and finally arrived at the Qjianji Xian Imperial Palace after 6 days. Halfway through, Li Lingtian used a miraculous healing pill to protect his injuries. However, as time passed, his injuries worsened. 6 days later, General Long sent Li Lingtian to Yuran Palace. Following that, he led his subordinates out of the Imperial Palace and began to do his own thing. He understood Li Lingtian's strength. As long as he did not vanish into thin air, he would not fall. This was because Li Lingtian had the heavenly sword body and the flaming sacred body. He cultivated the true dragon body barrier and various heaven-defying sacred scriptures. Huangfu Yuyan and the rest could not help but feel upset when they saw Li Lingtian's expression. However, they did not dare to cry. They did not want Li Lingtian to worry, so they quickly brought him to the practice room. Tang Qingyue and the others used their own true essence to perform dual cultivation to help Li Lingtian organize his meridians. The others were waiting outside, all of them extremely worried. Chapter 659, Family of the Divine Continent. Aunt, when do you think Imperial Uncle will recover? Xianyuan Qingqing held on to Ji Yi's hand and looked up to ask him. She was originally cultivating with her aunts, but she saw Longda and the others send Li Lingtian back. They were all shocked and saddened by Li Lingtian's grievous injuries. Xianyuan Qingqing felt the same way. She knew that her uncle was injured because of her and because he wanted to fight for the empty spirit pearl for her. She felt extremely upset. It's fine. Your imperial uncle is only slightly injured. He'll be fine after recuperating for a while. Ji Yi shook his head and comforted Xianyuan Qingqing. She was not confident that Li Lingtian's injury this time was more serious than ever before. They were well aware of how many powerhouses Li Lingtian had killed and how many powerhouses he had battled with. Thinking of the tragic scene at that time, they were all shocked. A martial monarch realm expert was facing hundreds of martial monarch realm experts and hundreds of martial saint realm experts. There were also a few fifth heaven martial saints who had joined forces. There was even one of the 10 great martial saints among them. If a martial emperor were to encounter any one of these powerhouses, he would vanish into thin air. However, Li Lingtian had managed to kill all of them before returning with the empty spirit pearl. Although he was severely injured, Li Lingtian had shocked the entire Moonsong Kingdom. The news of this incident was sealed and the army was not informed. Otherwise, it would affect the morale of the army. It's all Qingqing's fault. If Qingqing didn't have the empty spirit body, Imperial Uncle wouldn't have taken the risk to fight for the empty spirit pearl. Now, he's even so heavily injured. If Imperial Uncle's injuries aren't healed, Qingqing won't be able to live either. She'll accompany Imperial Uncle. Tears streamed down Xianyuan Qingqing's face. Even though she was still young, she knew how much Li Lingtian loved her. He was willing to fight against the world's heaven-defying powerhouses all by himself for her. In her heart, if her Imperial Uncle were to die, she would follow him to the underground world to accompany him. Silly girl, don't spout nonsense. Your Imperial Uncle is only injured. Remember, don't spread this. Xianyuan Yingying heard Xianyuan Qingqing's words and scolded softly. She understood how powerful Li Lingtian was. As long as he did not die, there would be no problem. Qingping, Xiaoxiao, Lu Min, Xianyuan Qingqing, Xianyuan Yingying, Little White, and Ji Yi were all waiting in the courtyard outside. In the practice room, Tang Qingyue and the others used their true essence. With no one joining hands, they combined their true essence and performed dual cultivation to slowly help Li Lingtian repair his meridians. Once Li Lingtian's meridians were repaired, he would be able to use true dragon qi to temper his body and heal his injuries quickly. Blood trickled down the corner of Li Lingtian's mouth as he sat cross-legged. He allowed Tang Qingyue and the others to inject their ethereal force into his body, repairing his broken meridians bit by bit. As time passed, the girls' exquisite and perfect faces were already covered in sweat, but they did not dare to have the slightest thought of stopping. This was a critical moment. If they stopped now, not only would all their previous efforts go to waste, Li Lingtian's injuries might even worsen. Pfft! Finally, after 2 hours, Li Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood. Although their faces were pale, they were much better than before. Seeing this situation, the girls were relieved. Now that his meridians had been repaired, Li Lingtian had to rely on his own cultivation method to slowly repair them. Even if they were to perform dual cultivation, there were still some meridians that they could not repair. They could only rely on themselves. After the blood was spat out, it meant that the injury had stabilized. He just needed to slowly recuperate. Following that, Li Lingtian began to circulate his cultivation technique and the heaven and earth reincarnation art. His vital essence slowly circulated through his meridians as Tang Qingyue and the others left the room. "Aunt Qingyue, how is Imperial Uncle?" Qing ran up to Tang Qingyue and asked anxiously. The other girls were also looking at Tang Qingyue and the others, curious about Li Lingtian's condition. "Your Imperial Uncle can heal himself now. I believe he will recover after some time. Lingtian's injuries this time are too severe. It seems like he needs to recuperate for a period of time." Tang Qingyue whispered to Xianyuan Qingqing before turning to Xianyuan Yingying and the others to explain Li Lingtian's situation. "We got the details from Longda. Big Brother used the heavenly demonic zither to kill hundreds of martial emperors and nearly 100 martial saints. In the end, he performed the third note of the 8 notes of the heavenly demon and suffered internal injuries. Among all the experts, only 6 or 7 managed to escape. The rest were all killed. However, there were 4 fifth sky martial saints who joined hands to cast the 4 symbols sky array. The 4 symbols sky array was fighting against Big Brother's 9 sky stars. The 9 sky stars destroyed the 4 symbols sky formation of the 4 fifth sky martial saints and almost killed them. However, they let them go in the end. Ge spoke in a serious tone. Tang Qingyue and the others had entered the practice room to help Li Lingtian repair his meridians as soon as they saw him seriously injured. Therefore, they did not know the actual details. General Long had told Ge and the others some of the details before leaving the palace. Now, Ge was telling Tang Qingyue and the others. What? He used the third note of the 8 notes of the sky demon and killed hundreds of martial emperors and nearly 100 martial saints. This guy is really something. One has to know that with his current cultivation, he can't completely control the third note of the 8 notes of the heavenly demon. He even used the 9 heavens stars later on. Isn't this adding to his injuries? Huangfu Yuyan exclaimed. Tang Qingyue and the others were also shocked. They did not expect Li Lingtian to do something so heaven-defying as to fight against the world's powerhouses all by himself. Killing all the experts, just imagine the situation at that time, it must have been extremely tragic. The scene would surely shock the powerhouses of the world. It was a pity that they did not witness it and they were worried about Li Lingtian. Fortunately, Li Lingtian was only injured and had returned. Big Brother let 4 fifth sky martial saints go, but their cultivation bases were sealed by him. When the empty spirit pearl was obtained, one of the 10 great martial saints, Dark Sky Venerable, appeared. Dark Sky Venerable pursued him to the heavenly fire mountains because Li Lingtian had killed the first prince of Moonsong Kingdom. Heavenly Knight injured Big Brother with one strike and sent him into the flames. The martial saint behind him wanted to kill Tian Xian of the Tian family in the Divine Continent. Tian Xian controlled the sky screen Golden Flame and the two of them fought. Big Brother used the Heavenly Sword Unity at the critical moment, but honored Sir Tian Yin had a Mystic Yin Divine Shield. Big Brother suffered a backlash, but Big Brother used Desolation 10 consecutive strikes to injure honored Sir Tian Yin and save Heaven Heart. In the end, Venerable Tian Yin used his destructive means. Big Brother had no choice but to use the fourth heaven of ice/fire/9 heavens to kill Venerable Tian Yin. However, he also suffered damage from the destruction. Ji slowly explained the general situation, as if she was there at the time. Qing Ling and the others were stunned when they heard that. Li Lingtian's techniques were the most heaven-defying of all. Every divine power was enough to destroy the world, but he had used them all this time. Looks like that Tianqin is pretty. He actually let the four of them off under such circumstances. Huangfu Yuyan smiled. Although Long De didn't say anything about Tianqin, they knew that since Tianqin was the successor of the Tian family, she should be pretty. Perhaps Li Lingtian had thought of something at that time. Otherwise, he would not have stopped and let the four of them off under such circumstances. Sister Yuyan, you are from the Divine Continent, do you know the situation of the Tian family? Tang Zimeng looked at Huangfu Yuyan curiously. She didn't expect that someone from the Divine Continent would come to the Mystic Continent. She was really not simple. The Divine Continent has a total of 10 great forces, 10 great families, and mysterious existences like the Immortal Palace. I'm not sure about many of them. I was always cultivating in the past, so I didn't know much about the Divine Continent. However, the Tian family of the Divine Continent is also one of the 10 great families. Each of the 10 great families of the Divine Continent is heaven-defying and has a martial god in each family. Lord Tianmu is one of the 10 martial gods. When we go to the Divine Continent, we'll understand what a true heaven for the strong is. There are as many strong as clouds in that place. The strong survive, and the weak have no dignity. I know. The Tian family has 2 geniuses. One is called Tian Xian and the other is called Tian Yi. The one he met should be Tian Xian. Huangfu Yuyan said slowly. She had always been cultivating in her family and did not understand the Divine Continent at all. She only knew some basic things. There were too many powerhouses in that place. Otherwise, she would not have chosen Qingzhou to train her heart and eventually met Li Lingtian. Looks like the Divine Continent is a pretty good place. The corners of Shun Mei's mouth curled into a smile as her charming face revealed a contemplative look. You guys stay outside and watch. We'll go back and recuperate. If there's anything, callous. Tang Qingyue said to Qingping and the others before they headed back to their own rooms. They had exhausted a lot of their energy by helping Li Lingtian heal his wounds. They were both physically and mentally exhausted. They were still worried about Li Lingtian's injuries, but they needed to rest and recover their cultivation base so that they could deal with any unnecessary troubles. Xianyuan Yingying and the others were in the courtyard. They would check on Li Lingtian from time to time but did not dare to disturb him. Just like that, the girls took turns to take care of Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingtian had been adjusting his breathing by himself and was not affected. After 3 days, Li Lingtian opened his eyes. The meridians in his body had been repaired but his injuries were still severe. It would take some time for him to recover to his peak condition. On this day, Li Lingtian called Little White in. Big Brother. Xiao Bai came to Li Lingtian's bedside and sat on it before calling out softly. I'm going to enter the Divine Dragon Ring to cultivate. You know what to do. Don't bother about the matters outside. Let them cause trouble. Only in the end will we know who is loyal. Don't tell anyone about my situation. Let them guess and make their own choice. Li Lingtian said seriously as he looked at Xiao Bai. There was no secret between the two of them. Naturally, they could be considered as one person because it was a friendly contract. As long as one of them died, the other would also suffer a destructive blow. He always told Little White everything he needed to know. Besides, Little White could control the divine dragon ring. At the very least, she could use the true dragon chi to open the divine dragon ring. Even if they were to encounter some heaven-defying calamity, Little White would be able to escape with Tang Qingyue and the others. Chapter 660, Test 1, I know what to do. Brother, don't worry and cultivate. If anything happens, I'll inform you. I'll tell Sister Yuyan and the others not to worry. Xiao Bai said earnestly. To her, Li Lingtian was not only her brother but also her parent. Everything was taught by Li Lingtian. Therefore, she had deep feelings for Li Lingtian. Otherwise, she would have assumed Li Lingtian's appearance after her transformation. This was her subconscious. Now that Li Lingtian was injured, she naturally had to take responsibility for his recuperation. Alright, I believe that Xiao Bai is the best. Li Lingtian smiled and passed the divine dragon ring to Little White with his divine consciousness. Then, he entered the divine dragon ring. In fact, he was also the ruler in the divine dragon ring. He just didn't want the divine dragon ring to fall into the hands of others. That would make him feel uneasy. After Li Lingtian entered the divine dragon ring, Little White left the room with the divine dragon ring. After telling them about Li Lingtian, they were relieved to hear that Li Lingtian had entered the divine dragon ring to cultivate. This meant that Li Lingtian was confident. It was more painful to regulate one's breathing in the divine dragon ring than outside, but the speed of recovery was extremely fast. Moreover, it was also extremely beneficial to the improvement of one's cultivation. That's good too. The news of Ling Tian's injury will definitely spread throughout the entire Moonsong Kingdom. At that time, the countless armies and the supreme experts will have their own thoughts. This is the time to test those troops and experts. As long as they are truly loyal, they won't leave at this time. Tang Qingyue replied calmly. Although not many people knew about Li Lingtian's injury, news about him spread quickly. Of course, the news would soon spread to the army. This was something that some people with intentions wanted to see the most. They did not mind being the instigator, which was why Li Lingtian made such an arrangement. That's right. There are two benefits to his arrangement. Firstly, it's to test those who are disloyal. Secondly, it's to send a signal to his subordinates that no matter what, he's the strongest and no one can defeat him. Under any circumstances, he will never die. In the future, this signal will always take root in everyone's hearts. Huangfu Yuyan nodded. Since Li Lingtian had made such arrangements, they would not have to worry about the outside world. They did not care anyway. As long as Li Lingtian was not in danger, it did not matter if they wanted to conquer the world or not. Even if there was a huge commotion outside, they wouldn't care. During this period of time, we have to cultivate well. Even if we can't become husbands' helpers, we don't want to become husbands' burden. Shan Mei said seriously. Their cultivation was already not bad. They had already reached the 9th level of the Martial Emperor realm and were only one step away from the Martial Honor realm. Once they broke through, they would be able to become Supreme Realm martial artists. By then, their abilities would have improved significantly and Li Lingtian would have less to worry about them. Oh right, little sister Yingying, when are you going to become big brother Lingtian's wife? At that time, we'll truly have one more sister. Tang Zimeng smiled at Xianyuan Yingying and teased her. The other girls looked at Xianyuan Yingying and laughed. It was the first time they had smiled in the past few days. Li Lingtian's expression was heavy after he was injured. Now that Li Lingtian's injuries had stabilized, he only needed to cultivate in the divine dragon ring for a period of time. Naturally, they felt much more relaxed. Besides, they were all girls, so it was only natural that they could not help but laugh and cheer. All of you are laughing at me. I naturally want to become Big Brother Ling Tian's wife, but not now. Xianyuan Yingying felt extremely shy when she saw all her sisters laughing at her. She was an inexperienced young girl. When she was teased like this, she would naturally feel shy, even if it was between sisters. However, she let go of him after that. They were all good sisters together, so she naturally understood these sisters. If you were shy, they would laugh at you even more. Since they would be sisters of the same husband in the future, she was not afraid of anything since there was no one else here. Are you still shy? Huangfu Yuyan said with a smile as she gently knocked Xianyuan Yingying's head. Following that, the girls arranged for them to take turns cultivating. Although they did not have to pay attention to the outside world, they still had to put on an act and pay attention to the situation outside so that they could inform Li Lingtian. The Yuran Palace Hall was still very quiet. All the girls were cultivating normally, and there was nothing unusual about it. No one could tell that something was wrong, because nothing seemed to have happened in the Yuran Palace. Outside, it was just as Li Lingtian had expected. In less than half a month, the news had spread throughout Moonsong Kingdom. Not many people knew about the ethereal pearl that had appeared in Yinfeng Nation's Heavenly Fire County. However, after the incident in the Sky Fire Mountain Range, the truth was revealed. The empty spirit pearl had appeared in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. It was a supreme treasure, and martial emperors and martial saints had gone to fight for it. However, something that shocked the entire kingdom happened in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. The first prince of the kingdom had been killed, the empty spirit pearl had appeared in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range, hundreds of martial emperors, hundreds of martial saints, a few fifth sky martial saints, Martial Saint Qingmi, and the 9th Heavenly Yin Knight. However, only a few of these experts managed to escape in the end. Even Martial Saint Qingmi and the 4 Fifth Heaven Martial Saints had retreated. Most of the other martial emperors and martial saints had died, and only a few had escaped. That powerhouse was none other than Qing Xian's young emperor Li Lingtian. He had single-handedly killed hundreds of martial emperors and over 100 martial saints. He defeated the 5th Sky Martial Saint who had joined hands to cast the 4-symbol Sky Array, killed the Heavenly Yin Knight, and finally obtained the empty spirit pearl to leave the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. The Heavenly Fire Mountain Range was destroyed and leveled. One could imagine how fierce the battle was. Furthermore, there were countless experts who witnessed the destruction of the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. They had also witnessed the scene of destruction. In the end, Li Lingtian managed to kill Venerable Tian Yin, but he was also severely injured by destruction. He almost died and was taken away by his subordinates. His fate was unknown. According to the description of the powerhouse at that time, Li Lingtian was most likely dead. This news shocked the kingdom. A 5th Heaven Martial Emperor had used a divine power to kill all the powerhouses. Even one of the 10 great martial saints, Heavenly Yin Knight, was killed. What kind of concept was this? Even if Li Lingtian was seriously injured and died, it was enough for him to be proud. However, when this news reached the Qing Xian Kingdom and the Carefree Empire, it immediately caused a huge commotion. Li Lingtian was a heaven-defying figure, but there was no news of him after he was injured. Could he have really fallen? After all, Li Lingtian was the soul of the army. Without Li Lingtian, the army would be useless and would be destroyed eventually. For a moment, the countless experts and soldiers in the army were in disarray. However, Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others ignored him and did not go out to consolidate their morale. This was because they knew that Li Lingtian's ability would not allow him to perish. There must be a reason why Li Lingtian did not send Longda to deliver the order at this time. It was also to test the loyalty of the powerhouses under him. As time passed, the army became more and more chaotic. Gradually, countless experts and armies left the army. Even some martial saints began to leave the army and seek refuge in other countries. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others ignored him. If they wanted to leave, they would leave. He would not try to stop them, but he felt sad for those who left. They would regret it even if Li Lingtian did not deal with them. The army of Qing Xian and the experts from the 3 legions left. Immediately, the morale of the entire army fell, and a third of the experts from the 3 legions left. At this moment, all the other countries had also reorganized their armies and prepared to launch a counterattack against Qing Xian. The army that had lost their morale was instantly defeated, leaving only half of the 3 legions. The 3 legions and millions of soldiers had also retreated back to Qjng Xian, trying their best to consolidate the country. However, the countless soldiers and the other countries had taken advantage of the situation and surrounded Qing Xian. 10 million soldiers were at the city gates. This was just like how the 6 dynasties attacked Qing Xian half a year ago. However, the current Qing Xian kingdom was many times stronger than before. However, the morale of the army was many times weaker. Basically, there was no morale at all. Princess, the army is outside the city. How is the young master's situation? Xianyuan Bailing and Xianyuan Ancient City came to the Yuran Palace Hall and bowed respectfully to Xianyuan Yingying. To them, even if the Qing Xian kingdom was destroyed, they wouldn't care. However, this place was the property of the Xianyuan family. With the young master and the princess here, it would be difficult to explain to the family if anything happened. That was why he came to ask Xianyuan Yingying. Don't bother about these things. Do what you need to do. Xianyuan Yingying waved her hand and said indifferently. Her entire body emitted the aura of a superior. This was an innate aura that a princess of a family should have. This subordinate understands. If princess has no other instructions, this subordinate will take his leave first. The ancient city of Xianyuan suddenly understood something. He glanced at Xianyuan Yingying and left. Go ahead. Xianyuan Yingying said indifferently. Her tone was still the same as before. This subordinate will take his leave. The ancient Xianyuan city hurriedly bowed and gave the Xianyuan mausoleum a look before quickly bowing and leaving. The few of them left the Yuran palace, but they were still puzzled. They looked at the ancient Xianyuan city. Young master is in closed-door cultivation. He should be fine. This time, young master must be deliberately taking advantage of this opportunity to test the people below. As the ancient Xianyuan city spoke, the few of them understood what was going on. Their worries were relieved and they were even more excited. Li Lingtian's incident had shaken the kingdom. He had killed the 10 great martial saints, hundreds of martial saints, and hundreds of other martial saints. With such strength, who else could threaten Qing Xian? As long as Li Lingtian did not have any problems, he would be able to bring Qing Xian, which was also the Xiaoyao dynasty, to its peak. Chapter 661, Li Lingtian's breakthrough. As usual, the people in the Qing Xian imperial palace were preparing for battle. The entire southern peak city was once again filled with the prospect of a great war. However, they were not very confident in their preparations for the war this time. After all, Li Lingtian had provoked countless countries and now, countless countries were attacking Qing Xian. The 3 legions, 500,000 soldiers were on the city walls, and the rest were ready to fight. The 10 million strong army of the 10 countries gave off a shocking aura. Xianyuan Bailing, let's see what Qing Xian can do. Without Li Lingtian, what else can you do? It's not too late to surrender now. The king of Bingleng shouted loudly with a smile on his face. Although he was shouting for the Xianyuan mausoleums to submit, he didn't have the slightest intention of asking the Xianyuan mausoleums to submit. The 10 million strong army had an imposing manner, so they naturally didn't care about the army of Qing Xian that didn't have any fighting spirit. If it was in the past, when a country attacked Qing Xian, he would really want Qing Xian to submit to him. After all, they were middle-class and upper-class countries. This time, there were 12 medium-sized nations and 2 upper-class nations. With such a heaven-defying alliance, even if Qing Xian's Li Lingtian was still around, they were confident that they could kill him. Ha! Ha! Bai Wujian, are you going to the Bingling kingdom to look down on our Qing Xian kingdom? If you quit now, I can save your life. Xianyuan Bailing laughed loudly. His expression was calm, and he did not look like he was being attacked by an army. The powerhouses from more than a dozen countries were puzzled by this. They shared the same thought. Could Li Lingtian still be around? Even if Li Lingtian was still around, his 3 major legions had almost disintegrated and his millions of troops had been scattered. They were no match for the dozen or so countries. If Li Lingtian was here, he would not have let the morale of the troops below him fall. Now, even if the army was intact and Li Lingtian was still around, he would not be a match for the dozen nations. Xianyuan Bailing, are we afraid of the empty city tactic? Even if Li Lingtian was still around, he would still be killed this time. Jin Fenglai, the king of Liaoyu state, saw that the other armies were wavering and said loudly. If the morale of the army wavered, even if the army won, it would be a miserable victory. Then let's give it a try. Even if my Qing Xian kingdom is destroyed, don't even think about having it easy. Xianyuan Bailing spoke calmly. His expression did not change, but his tone was no longer as overbearing as before. The change in his expression and tone made countless powerhouses realize that Li Lingtian was no longer around. Kill, kill. Kill, kill. Seeing this, the army began to attack the city. Qing Xian had a defensive formation that was close to the divine level. The other countries naturally understood that he had already found a way to deal with it. In Tianshui, a powerhouse at the 5th sky of the Martial Saint realm took out a set of strange formation flags. Mysterious Sky 9 Killing Formation. After the 5th sky Martial Saint expert took out the array flag, he immediately activated it. Immediately, a destructive aura erupted between heaven and earth. A 1,000-meter-wide circle of light kept spinning, and the spiritual qi between heaven and earth kept condensing. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, the powerful defensive formation of the Qing Xian kingdom began to tremble. Li Lingtian's defense was drained, and without the nourishment and enhancement of spirit qi, he began to tremble rapidly. Seeing this situation, the Qing Xian army was disheartened. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the entire southern peak city trembled, and the ground continued to collapse. The light circle of the formation flag exploded with a destructive attack and ruthlessly hit the defensive formation of Qing Xian. Kacha! The formation shook violently and finally collapsed. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! The defense was broken, and the armies of the 14 kingdoms charged forward like a tide. Instantly, the destructive attacks in the air collided. The world trembled and destroyed at this moment, and space shattered. Kill, kill! The deafening cries of war rang out, and the army of 10 million soldiers was like a ferocious beast that wanted to devour Qing Xian. In the sky, hundreds of martial saints were gathered. Their eyes were all fixed on Qing Xian. A man's fame was like a tree's shadow. Last time, Li Lingtian had single-handedly killed hundreds of martial emperors and over 100 martial saints, shocking the kingdom. Even though Li Lingtian was no longer around, his prestige was still there. They dared not be careless. If Li Lingtian were to appear, they would join forces to kill him. This time, they were determined to destroy Qing Xian kingdom. This was also the order of Moonsong Kingdom. Moreover, Li Lingtian of Qing Xian was too heaven-defying. If he was not completely destroyed, all the other kingdoms and kingdoms would be threatened. The battle was earth-shattering. Within a radius of 100,000 miles, the aura of destruction soared into the sky. The entire southern mountain city was in ruins. In the palace, Tang Qingyue and the others looked worried. With Qing Xian's current strength, it was only a matter of time before it was destroyed. If Qing Xian was destroyed, they would have no choice but to flee. However, Li Lingtian was still unaware of the situation or how he was doing. I wonder how Lingtian is doing now. Little sister Xiaobai, what was the situation the last time you saw Lingtian? Tang Qingyue looked worried as she looked at Little White. The last time Little White saw Li Lingtian in the Divine Dragon Ring was 3 days ago. They were all aware of Li Lingtian's situation but could not help but ask again as the situation was not right. When I saw brother, his injuries had already completely recovered. It seemed like he was breaking through the 5th layer of the true dragon body barrier. 3 days have passed. It should be about time. If the situation doesn't turn right, I'll go in and call my brother out. That way, he can bring us out of here first. Whitey was also worried. After all, breaking through to the 5th layer of the true dragon body barrier was heaven-defying. It was not so easy to break through. However, the situation outside was not looking good. If Qing Xian was destroyed, they would not even have the chance to escape with their cultivation base. Only when Li Lingtian came out and used his mystical body movement technique would they have a chance to escape. Oh right, how's Supervisor Long's war god? Huangfu Yuyan looked at Qingling. These few days, they had been cultivating and Qingling had been handling some matters. With the army approaching the city, Longda had returned to Qing Xian. Qingling let Longda supervise the construction of the war god. The array master and weapon refinement master inside the array were unaware of Li Lingtian's situation. They were not allowed to leave the array before the war god was completed, so they were unaware of the situation outside. Longda has already said that the war god is at the final juncture. Everything else has been completed. There's only one built-in formation that requires young master's help. There's no mistake in all the experiments. The war god has met young master's requirements. There are no problems with this. Qingling said seriously. Although she had been with Li Lingtian for a long time, she seldom dealt with such matters. She was worried that there might be a problem between them, so she told them everything. If there was a problem, the other sisters could find out and make up for it. The war god is one of Big Brother Lingtian's trump cards. It's a treasure to deal with the army. There can't be any mistakes. After this, Big Brother Lingtian will definitely be furious. At that time, the war will truly begin. Tang Zimen grew up with Li Lingtian and knew his personality. Although Tang Qingyue knew about it, she would not say it out loud. Even though Li Lingtian was from his past life, their souls had fused together. His personality did not change much, but he was much more powerful than before and had his own personality. The fusion of the two souls became a perfect existence. At this moment, Little White exclaimed in surprise, and the expression on its face kept changing. Little sister Xiaobai, what's wrong? Tang Qingyue and the others looked at Little White and asked curiously, their faces full of concern. After all, Little White had Li Lingtian's divine dragon ring and she was the closest person to Li Lingtian. If anything happened to Li Lingtian, Little White would be the first to know. Sister Qingyu, you guys protect me. I'll go in and take a look. Xiaobai did not say anything because she looked very anxious. Without waiting for Tang Qingyue and the others to react, he closed his eyes and sent his divine sense into the divine dragon ring. As Li Lingtian's cultivation base improved, the space inside the divine dragon ring was also extremely huge. The dragon chi of 3,000 worlds had also been activated in 3 worlds. Although it was only the dragon chi of 3 worlds, it was less than 1% of the dragon chi of 1 world. However, the density of the dragon energy was different. The degree of dragon energy in every world was different. At present, Li Lingtian was in the third world. Similarly, the silver-winged flying dragon was in the third world. Little White did not show any signs of depression as its divine consciousness entered the third world. However, when it saw Li Lingtian's condition, it was shocked. Roar! Roar! Boom! Boom! In the third world, Li Lingtian was seen floating in the air as endless dragon energy rapidly entered his body. The dragon energy was rapidly tempering Li Lingtian. Opposite Li Lingtian was the silver-winged flying dragon. At this moment, the silver-winged flying dragon's body was constantly changing. Its terrifying body continued to transform. Now, the silver-winged flying dragon's silver wings were 2 meters long, and its entire body was 200 meters long. It looked shocking and unusually powerful. Li Lingtian and the silver-winged flying dragon were loyal to a dragon soul. Li Lingtian had refined this dragon soul the last time, but he had yet to reach a certain level and could not unleash its full potential. He did not expect Li Lingtian to take out the dragon soul at this moment and refine it together with the silver-winged flying dragon. True dragon strength. True dragon body. Li Lingtian and the silver-winged flying dragon roared at the same time as the shocking dragon energy world began to tremble. The destructive aura surged non-stop. Li Lingtian's aura changed rapidly as the true dragon's qi enveloped his entire body. At the same time, the dragon's soul was split into 2 halves. Li Lingtian absorbed half of the dragon's soul and the other half was absorbed by the silver-winged flying dragon. At this moment, the silver-winged flying dragon's cultivation realm continued to rise and break through, and its aura was shocking. Chapter 662, Coming Out of Seclusion, the Peak of the 7th Rank, 9th Rank, Great Circle. Level 1 of the 8th Step. Level 2 of the 8th Step. Level 3 of the 8th Step. Peak of the 8th Step, 3rd Rank. Level 4 of the 8th Step. Little White's divine sense said in horror. He did not expect the silver-winged flying dragon to use its dragon soul to activate its true dragon body, allowing it to continuously break through its realm. Such a breakthrough was only possible for the mighty figures of the dragon race. He did not expect the silver-winged flying dragon to be so abnormal. In the end, his realm stabilized at the peak of level 8, level 5. His terrifying true dragon body emitted an aura that could destroy the world. At this time, the silver-winged flying dragon was a true dragon powerhouse. True dragon force, break. The expression on Li Lingtian's face kept changing. With a final shout, the dragon energy in his body burst out before it was retracted. The giant dragon power turned into the true dragon power. The true dragon power was incomparably terrifying. At this moment, Li Lingtian was the ultimate powerhouse of the dragon tribe and could be said to be a true dragon tribe. 5th Heaven Martial Emperor Realm, Breakthrough. The moment the true dragon power stabilized, Li Lingtian's temperament sublimated and his overall strength improved. His cultivation had already risen to the peak of the 5th Heaven Martial Emperor Realm. Finally, he broke through to the Martial Emperor Realm with the help of the true dragon body barrier. He had broken through to the 6th level of the Martial Emperor Realm from the 5th level of the Martial Emperor Realm. The strength of the 6th level of the Martial Emperor Realm was on a completely different level compared to the 5th level of the Martial Emperor Realm. Li Lingtian opened his eyes after the breakthrough. There was no longer any light in his eyes. However, it was even clearer, as dazzling as the stars in the starry sky. Big Brother, the armies of the 14 kingdoms have arrived at the city. The city is already on the verge of destruction. When Xiao Bai saw Li Lingtian open his eyes, it quickly explained the situation outside. I understand. You go out first. I'll be right out. Li Lingtian took a glance at the silver-winged flying dragon not far away. The silver-winged flying dragon had already stabilized its state with the help of the terrifying dragon energy. Moreover, it was still absorbing dragon energy at a crazy rate to rapidly increase its state. With the dragon soul, his realm would not fall at all. It was the same for Li Lingtian now. Even if he was severely injured, his state would not drop. As he watched Little White leave the divine dragon ring, Li Lingtian adjusted his breathing to stabilize his various techniques. "Buddy, let's go out and get some exercise." Li Lingtian's lips curled into a smile. This time, he would definitely beat these people until their hearts trembled. Since they dared to provoke him, they had to be prepared to pay the price. He wanted to leave a permanent scar in the hearts of these powerhouses. He wanted them to know that no matter what, he, Li Lingtian, was an invincible existence. The silver-winged flying dragon's eyes revealed an excited expression. To it, reaching the peak of level 8, level 5, was completely heaven-defying. At the same time, it was grateful to Li Lingtian. If it were not for Li Lingtian's constant nurturing, it would not have reached tier 8. In the end, Li Lingtian even took out the dragon soul. It understood the importance of the dragon soul, but it was precisely this important dragon soul that Li Lingtian did not hold back and allowed it to advance. Soon after, Li Lingtian left the divine dragon ring and appeared in the courtyard. Tang Qingyue and the others were overjoyed to see Li Lingtian. They sized him up at the same time. Seeing that Li Lingtian's injuries had fully recovered and his cultivation base had improved, he felt even more relieved. "Big brother, your injuries have recovered. It seems that your cultivation has also increased quite a bit." Ge stood obediently beside Li Lingtian and spoke softly with an adorable appearance. "Yes, I've already broken through to the 6th Heaven Martial Emperor realm. The true dragon body protection has also reached the true dragon power." Li Lingtian had a smile on his face. He had been injured recently and had not been with his woman. On the contrary, he had made them worry and he felt guilty. He looked at Huangfu Yuyan and the others with guilt in his eyes. "It's good that your injuries have recovered." "That's right. As long as my injuries are healed, I can cultivate again." This time, young master broke through after being injured. It's something to be happy about. Imperial uncle. The girls were all extremely excited and did not know what to say for a moment. On the other hand, Xianyuan Qingqing ran to Li Lingtian's side and tugged at his shirt happily. She looked up at Li Lingtian with her little face and sized him up. "My baby, come here and hug me." Li Lingtian bent down and picked Xianyuan Qingqing up with a kind smile on his face. At this moment, the silver-winged flying dragon appeared in the courtyard. However, its huge body had long been retracted. It was only 3 meters tall now. Its aura was extremely weak, just like an ordinary demon beast. "Let's go and take a look at the front. Let's see if they can really turn the world upside down." Li Lingtian led Huangfu Yuyan and the others out of the palace at a moderate pace. Along the way, countless troops were mobilized. Countless powerhouses dashed forward, but they had forgotten about Li Lingtian and the others. By the time Li Lingtian and the others reached the city wall, no one had noticed them. Li Lingtian could not be bothered with these people. Instead, he found a random spot to watch the battle in front of him. In this war, Qing Xian did not defend to the death like they did in the past. This was because it was impossible to defend against an army of tens of millions. It was better to attack directly and die with the enemy. The Divine Wind, Divine Dragon, and Divine Martial Army were also fighting against the tens of millions of soldiers. Without Li Lingtian's presence, even if the army was strong, it had lost its soul and fighting spirit. Their strength was not as strong as before, and the Qing Xian country's army was constantly dying. The 14 Kingdoms' army had an earth-shaking momentum. "Hey!" Li Lingtian sighed. He now understood that he had to nurture a true soul to suppress the army. Otherwise, the army would lose its morale and soul every time something happened to him. He wanted to find a person who could possess the soul of the army. Even if he left, the soul of the army would still exist. You guys protect yourselves. I'll settle the matter here. Li Lingtian looked at the morale of the 3 legions and the Qingxian kingdom's army that was dying one after another. He felt depressed, but he did not want to wait any longer. As he spoke, he had already understood the forces on the battlefield. There were as many martial emperor powerhouses as there were clouds and more than 100 martial saint powerhouses. However, these martial saint powerhouses did not make a move. From the looks of it, it was rumored that he had already fallen and was not worth violating the Iron Law. Most of the 100 or so martial saint experts were at the 1st or 2nd sky. However, there were 8 5th sky martial saint experts. Moreover, these experts were the sole figures of the army. As long as these experts were killed, the siege of Qingxian would be resolved. At that time, he would use his thunderous methods to destroy all the experts and all the armies. If he shook the world and provoked Li Lingtian, it would be endless destruction. Emichim, be careful. Huangfu Yuyan and the rest nodded. They knew that the battle would not end if Li Lingtian did not step forward. They were relieved to see Li Lingtian's battle with their own eyes. Even if there was any danger, at least they knew that they could face it together. Li Lingtian would no longer be fighting alone. Understood. Li Lingtian nodded and exhaled a breath of cold air to calm himself down. He looked coldly at all the super experts in the sky, and killing intent surged in his heart. He circulated all the true essence in his body. The other party had countless experts, so he naturally wouldn't let the other party make preparations before making a move. The true dragon body barrier was also used. In his hand, the heavenly extreme tyrant Emperor Saber was held. However, after the appearance of the Empyrean terminus Emperor Saber, there was no longer the slightest bit of pressure. The pressure was sealed by Li Lingtian and would only erupt when it was time to make a move. He waved his hand in the air and disappeared. Ah! 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 In the sky, 3 blood-curdling screams rang out. Originally, in the battle between millions of soldiers and countless experts, the screams were endless. Such screams were nothing at all. However, this scream had a penetrating power because it came from the void. Only martial saints would stand in the void and watch the battle. When the 3 screams fell, the 3 5th sky martial saints had already fallen. Their bodies fell quickly. After killing 3 5th sky martial saints in a row, all the martial saints reacted. They flashed quickly to avoid the invisible killing intent and destructive pressure. The shocking attack blasted towards the invisible killing intent and pressure, but when the attack landed, the killing intent and pressure disappeared together. When they reappeared, they were already 100 miles in the air. All the powerhouses were stunned at this moment. 3 heaven-defying powerhouses at the 5th sky of the martial saint realm were killed silently in front of hundreds of martial saint powerhouses. What kind of concept was this? The 5th sky of the martial saint realm could be wiped out so easily. How powerful was the opponent? Even if the opponent had just launched a sneak attack, this strength was still enough to shock the heavens. This was because a martial saint's reaction and senses were strong. They would dodge and block before the danger arrived. Moreover, if an expert tore through the air and came, there would be fluctuations in space. It was impossible to sneak attack a martial arts master above the supreme realm. In this world, sneak attacks were not valid. However, 3 of the strongest 5th sky martial saints had been killed in an instant. If the opponent didn't release his killing intent and pressure, even if he killed all the experts, no one would be able to resist. When they saw that figure in the sky, all the experts were shocked. Li Lingtian. It's Li Lingtian. How is that possible? Wasn't Li Lingtian injured and killed? Why did my cultivation level increase? What's going on? What a terrifying technique. Young Master D, it's young Master D. Young Master D has appeared. It's really young Master D. He didn't die. I knew that young Master D was an invincible existence. It's impossible for him to fall. All of a sudden, the armies and experts from both sides cried out in surprise. There was shock and joy in their eyes. The armies of the 14 countries were shocked and terrified because that legendary figure had already fallen and appeared again. Moreover, he was even stronger. The army of the Qingxian kingdom and the 3 legions were all pleasantly surprised because the legendary expert had reappeared after he was injured and died. Moreover, he was even more heaven-defying. In an instant, he had silently killed 3/5 Sky Martial Saints. What kind of concept was it to casually kill a 5th Sky Martial Saint? I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 663, Silver-Winged Flying Dragon Level 8, Level 5 Morale. The morale of both armies instantly reversed. The morale of the 14 kingdoms' armies plummeted, while the morale of the Qingxian kingdom and the 3 legions soared. The imposing manner of the Qingxian kingdom army suddenly soared and reached an extreme. For a period of time, it was torturous to say that young Master D had fallen. But now, young Master D had appeared, and it was even more shocking than the rumors said. They were all extremely excited and filled with fighting spirit. The thought of Li Lingtian's legend in the heavenly fire mountains excited all the troops and powerhouses. First, he saw the 3/5 Sky Martial Saints die with his own eyes. They were killed by young Master D himself without a sound. All his guesses disappeared. I've been waiting for you for a long time. You're all too useless. You've disappointed me. Li Lingtian hovered in the air as he looked at all the powerhouses with an icy gaze. His entire body emitted a faint aura, and he was like a god of war standing proudly between heaven and earth. Countless martial sovereigns and hundreds of martial saints were extremely shocked at this moment. They were extremely clear about what happened in the Sky Fire Mountain range. Even if they didn't see it with their own eyes, they knew that the battle that time was extremely intense. In the beginning, he didn't take it seriously because he didn't see it with his own eyes. He thought it was just a rumor. However, Li Lingtian had eliminated 3/5 Heaven Martial Saints with ease. This was not fake at all. There were 8/5 Firmament Martial Saints here, but 3 of them were gone all of a sudden. Moreover, the other party had not used any big move to exterminate them. They had lost before the battle even started. Under such circumstances, how could they not be shocked? Li Lingtian, didn't you die in the Skyfire Mountains? A 5th Firmament Martial Saint powerhouse looked at Li Lingtian with a constantly changing expression. He was already extremely fearful of Li Lingtian. If he wanted to leave, he would lose face. If he did not leave, he would be in danger of being killed. He was curious as well. Rumors had it that Li Lingtian had fallen in Moonsong Kingdom. Hundreds of martial emperors, hundreds of martial saints, and even Supremacy Tian had fallen. No matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he was still injured. In addition, the army of Qingxian and the Carefree Empire had been defeated and their morale had been reduced. All these proved that Li Lingtian had fallen. However, Li Lingtian had appeared at this very moment and he was even more powerful than before. This question was also a question for all the experts. It was something that countless experts in Qingxian wanted to know. This time, many of the Qingxian kingdom's army had left because of this rumor. Who do you think can defeat me in this world? Martial Saint? War God? Or you trash? As long as I am willing, no one in this world can kill me. There's no harm in telling you. That day, I killed hundreds of martial emperors, hundreds of martial saints, and even heavenly knight, but I was injured. However, I have an undying body. As long as my soul is not destroyed, I will never be destroyed. The more injured I am, the faster I will break through. Li Lingtian laughed loudly with an arrogant expression on his face. However, at this moment, no one called him arrogant. This was because he had the qualifications and ability to do so. Li Lingtian was indeed injured, and he was even more powerful after his breakthrough. Undying body? Heavenly Knight also died? You are immortal. Then let's see if you're immortal or not. Today, either you die or we die. All the experts were shocked, even the experts of Qing Xian were shocked. However, all the powerhouses immediately channeled their true essence. Since they had offended Li Lingtian, he would not let them off the hook given his cultivation base, strength, and personality. With such a tone, it would be better for them to have a big fight first. Even if they were to fall, they would drag Li Lingtian down with them. Return them all to me. Li Lingtian shouted as he watched the countless Qing Xian army fall. Since there was going to be a war, there would be destruction. He did not want his army to fall. After saying that, he circulated the true essence in his entire body to the extreme, and a shocking aura was instantly displayed. The 6th Heaven Martial Emperor realm's cultivation aura was already comparable to the 3rd or 4th Heaven Martial Saint realm. All the powerhouses were shocked by the scene. Li Lingtian was only at the 5th Heaven Martial Emperor realm a while ago, but he was now at the 6th Heaven Martial Emperor realm. It seemed like what he said was true. Come out. Li Lingtian channeled his true essence, and with a wave of his hand, the silver-winged flying dragon on the city wall shot toward him and hovered beside him. The terrifying medicinal power was fully displayed. It looked only 2 to 3 meters tall, but the destructive aura made all the experts not dare to underestimate it. Boom! The silver-winged flying dragon came to Li Lingtian's side. It then channeled its demonic power once again and materialized its true form. Instantly, a 200-meter-long true dragon floated in the sky, and the space trembled. Its 100-meter-long silver wings flapped lightly, and the destructive wind blew countless armies and experts into nothingness. Its silver body was like a silver machine of destruction. Instantly, all the experts cried out in surprise. Silver-winged flying dragon. 8th rank silver-winged flying dragon. This is a silver-winged flying dragon at the peak of level 5 of the 8th step. I didn't expect there to be a level 8, level 5 silver-winged flying dragon. For a moment, countless experts were stunned by the silver-winged flying dragon's domineering aura. Terrifying demonic power wreaked havoc in the space. The powerful visual impact made countless experts tremble. Not to mention fighting with this silver-winged flying dragon, even this pressure was not something that ordinary martial artists could withstand. The 5/5 Sky Super Martial Saints were also surprised. A level 8 level 5 silver-winged flying dragon was equivalent to a 5th Sky Martial Saint. Moreover, the silver-winged flying dragon was the king of the sky. It was extremely terrifying to begin with. Now that it had reached the peak of level 8, it would be defeated even if it encountered a 6th Sky Martial Saint. Li Lingtian alone was enough to give them a headache, let alone a silver-winged flying dragon at the peak of level 8 level 5. In a flash, Li Lingtian appeared on the silver-winged flying dragon's back and sat cross-legged with a faint glow in his eyes. This light was like a star in the night sky. Sacrifice. With a flick of his divine sense, the Tianma zither appeared in his hand. The exquisite Tianma zither was originally only the size of a palm, but after a spell seal, it became 3 feet long, no different from an ordinary zither. Clang! An ethereal sound of a zither was heard, and the sound of the zither soared into the 9 heavens. The beautiful sound of nature made all the experts look confused. What a beautiful zither music! Oh no, this is the music that was rumored to have killed hundreds of martial emperors and martial saints in the Sky Fire mountain range. Be careful. This zither music is not simple. Yeah, hurry up and stop him, or it'll be too late. All the powerhouses looked at the Tianma zither in front of Li Lingtian. Although they did not recognize it, Li Lingtian was definitely not in a leisurely mood when he was performing the zither in front of the countless troops and powerhouses. He was most likely using sound waves to attack. The sound wave attacks were everywhere, and there was no way to defend against them. Now, they had to kill Li Lingtian before the Guqin's killing intent appeared. Otherwise, it would be too late to stop it when the killing intent appeared. Clang! 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 The sound of the zither slowly rang out, and the sky quieted down in front of this sound. The battlefield that was originally filled with killing intent also quieted down at this time. The beautiful sound of nature intoxicated countless low-level martial artists. He put down his weapon and looked at Li Lingtian, who was in the air. A single sound can make all things drunk. Li Lingtian looked at the Tianma zither seriously as his 10 fingers moved. Waves of heavenly sounds appeared under his fingers and drifted into the air. Boom! Roar! Rumble! Rumble! Clang! 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 In the sky, a shocking explosion sounded as countless supreme martial emperors and martial saints bombarded Li Lingtian with shocking attacks. However, all the attacks were blocked by the silver-winged flying dragon's defense. The massive destructive silver wings flapped in the air, and a heaven-defying hurricane swept through the world. Countless armies were destroyed in front of this hurricane. Silver-winged flying dragons were the kings of the sky. They were extremely fast, and with their true dragon bodies, their defenses were extremely strong. Li Lingtian was sitting cross-legged on the silver-winged flying dragon. All of its attacks were blocked by the silver-winged flying dragon, and it kept dodging as it charged toward the 14 nations' army. Wherever the silver-winged flying dragon passed, countless powerhouses below the martial supreme realm were destroyed. The sound of the zither was still playing at a moderate pace, as if it would never stop. The music was so beautiful that the army on the city wall was completely intoxicated. However, the armies of the 14 countries trembled and fell in front of the silver-winged flying dragons. All the experts chased after the silver-winged flying dragons to attack, but when the silver-winged flying dragons entered the armies of the 14 countries, the armies of the 14 countries fell. From time to time, they would enter the midst of countless martial arts saints and direct the attacks of martial arts saints to their own people. Two-tone heaven and earth desolate annihilation. The sound of the zither suddenly changed, and the beautiful sound of nature in the sky disappeared. In exchange, it was replaced by a murderous aura. The entire battlefield was instantly filled with killing intent. All the armies were destroyed by the endless zither music before they could react. It was the same for the martial emperor powerhouses. He gave up on attacking Li Lingtian and began to circulate his cultivation technique to protect his body. However, the heavenly demonic zither and the second note of the heavenly demonic 8 tones were simply destructive. The martial monarch realm experts did not have the slightest ability to resist at all. Martial monarch realm experts continued to die rapidly. Hush! The army of Qing Xian and the experts on the city walls were all stunned, and they saw the destruction of the army and the destruction of the martial monarch realm experts wherever the zither music passed. They had heard of the events in the Heavenly Fire mountain range, but they had never seen it with their own eyes. Now that they had seen the power of the zither music with their own eyes, they were all terrified. Boom! With a loud explosion, a destructive attack finally broke through the silver-winged flying dragon's defense. The destructive attack was headed straight for Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian looked at the devastating attack with a faint smile on his face and a hint of disdain at the corner of his mouth. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.